Chapter 606. Xiao Mingzhen glanced at his confidant who was driving and spoke in a voice that only he and Du Long could hear. The reason why I want to rule the Shuangqing province's underground forces is because I want to be closer to Qin Zhizhong's master. I can help him a little if he encounters something that's not suitable for him. What? Du Yunlong was stunned. He looked at his master Xiao Mingzhen with an incredulous expression as stormy waves set off inside his heart. So, the reason why his master racked his brains to rule the Blue City's underground forces was actually because, to curry favor with someone. How could this be possible? Du Yunlong knew his master's identity. Not to mention that he secretly controlled the underground forces of a province, he also controlled two large companies with a total value of more than 10 billion yuan. The most important thing was that his master was a cultivator with a mysterious and unfathomable power. With such an identity, he actually needed to curry favor with others. Xiao Mingzhen sighed in a low voice, "Your cultivation is still very low, and your vision is too narrow. Perhaps in the future, you'll know that there are still some people in this world who are stronger than me. Some people's ability can bring me a lot of benefits just by giving me a few pointers. Since you've broken through to the foundation establishment stage, I'll personally take you to see him a few days after the new year." Du Yunlong was shocked by Xiao Mingzhen's words. Since he became his master at the age of 5, he knew no other cultivators apart from Miao Wentang of Haiqing province. Now that he had reached the foundation establishment stage, he thought that he was already very powerful and could become an existence that countless people looked up to. Who would have thought that there was someone more powerful than his master in this world? "Thank you, master," Du Yunlong said gratefully. He followed Xiao Mingzhen to cultivate from the age of 5 until the age of 16. Most of the time, he followed Xiao Mingzhen. In his eyes, Xiao Mingzhen was even closer to him than his biological parents. Soon, two cars drove into the Clear Lake Club. Xiao Mingzhen didn't get off the car since there was no need for him to intervene in this kind of conflict between children. As he watched Du Yunlong enter the building, he slowly closed his eyes and pondered whether or not Tang Xiu would take a liking to the thing he had obtained. Seacraft Hall. When Du Yunlong walked in with his two men, his brows slightly wrinkled. His younger brother, Du Yunjie, had been beaten miserably, but he didn't take it to heart. In fact, he even thought that his younger brother, Du Yunjie, should suffer a little. Otherwise, if he caused trouble all day long, he would definitely cause big trouble in the future. What he cared about was Chang's corpse on the ground, as well as the miserable appearances of Chang's subordinates. Yunlong. When Huang Su saw Du Yunlong, he immediately stood up from the sofa. With his back to Tan Xiu and Long Zhengyu, he gave Du Yunlong a look. Du Yunlong narrowed his eyes and nodded. He looked at Du Yunjie and coldly snorted, "This is the second time tonight, right? Is it really that good to be forced to ask for help?" Du Yunjie wasn't afraid of his parents, but he was afraid of his brother who possessed terrifying strength. Hearing Du Yunlong's words, his lips squirmed a few times before he lowered his head and said, "Brother, I was wrong." Du Yunlong snorted coldly again. Then, he looked at Tan Xiu and Long Zhengyu and lightly said, "Gentlemen, I know my younger brother's character. I'm afraid that he provoked you first tonight. If it's really as I said, then I apologize to the two of you on his behalf. I hope you can be magnanimous and don't stoop to the level of a child like him. There are still some sensible people in the Du family." Long Zhengyu indifferently said. "You don't need to apologize. Every injustice has its perpetrator, and every debt has its debtor. We naturally won't blame you." Du Yunlong nodded and said, "I've already said my apology. Now, let's talk about something else. Chang was under the protection of my Du family, I believe you should be aware of it. Now that he's dead, you should be the one who did it, right? Also, they are seriously injured and some of them should be disabled. The two of you are too heavy-handed. I think you should give me an explanation. If we don't have the ability, I'm afraid we'll be the unlucky ones today." Long Zhengyu sneered. "Who will give us an explanation if we're unlucky?" Du Yunlong was silent, but his sharp eyes lingered on the two men. Half of Tan Xiu's body was nestled on the sofa. He folded his arms and smilingly said, "What kind of explanation do you want?" "Men fight for power, money, and connections," said Du Yunlong. "But I didn't see you taking advantage of your power to bully others, so I don't feel like using those means. Since you can kill Chang and injure more than a dozen of his men, it proves that your individual strength is good. I'll fight with you. If you win, you can do whatever you want to me. But if you lose, bow your head and admit your mistake, then clean up the aftermath for Chang." "How should I clean up the aftermath?" Tan Xiu asked with a ruminating smile. "You two don't look like people who are short of money," said Du Yunlong. "Chang's family will be compensated 10 million yuan, and the rest will be compensated 2 million yuan for their medical expenses. You're good. You're kinder than me," said Tan Xiu with a smile. "Since you said so, I'm afraid I won't be a man if I refuse." With that said, Tan Xiu got up from the sofa. Huang Su's expression changed and he quickly said, "Tan Xiu, it's all right. I'm just playing." Tan Xiu laughed. "Don't worry, I promise I won't kill him." "I'm afraid, Tan Xiu." Huang Su forced a smile. Tan Xiu stared blankly for a moment. He was at a loss whether he had to cry or laugh as he asked, "You mean, you're afraid that I'll be killed by him? Is he very powerful?" "He's very powerful," said Huang Su without hesitation. "It seems that no one in the entire Blue City is his match. He once beat down 20 to 30 people by himself." He couldn't continue speaking up to this point because he had just witnessed Tan Xiu's means. Tan Xiu was also a ruthless character who could beat more than a dozen people by himself. Du Yunlong said indifferently, "Don't worry. I won't kill him." Inwardly, Huang Su was annoyed by the arrogance of the two Du brothers. He immediately shouted angrily, "Du Yunlong, even if you're more powerful than Tan Xiu, you must lose today. Else, you're Du family." "Huang Su!" shouted Tan Xiu in a deep voice. Huang Su's body trembled. He turned his head to look at Tan Xiu with difficulty and said bitterly, "He has helped me several times and can be considered as my benefactor. Brother Tan Xiu, can you spare him this time for my sake? I guarantee that he will never provoke you again in the future." Tan Xiu frowned and fell into silence. Du Yunlong, on the other hand, looked at Tan Xiu with astonishment. He was a smart man and realized that Tan Xiu was not as simple as he looked through Huang Su's words. It was very likely that he had a terrifying origin that even Huang Su was afraid of. However, what was the origin of this person who could make Huang Su so afraid? Lan Cheng had never seen him before. Could it be that he came from the imperial capital? Upon thinking up to there, Du Yunlong solemnly said, "Huang Su, I think you misunderstood. It's just a contest of martial arts. Regardless of the outcome, the enmity between him and my brother will be written off. If I lose, I'm willing to let them deal with me. If they lose, they'll just have to pay some medical fees. I believe that everyone here is a man, so they can afford to let go of such a small matter." Tan Xiu clapped his hands and nodded with a smile. "Du Yunlong, is it? You're quite a character. Get out of the way, Huang Su. Since he has already put it this way, no matter who wins or loses, I will not pursue this matter any further." Huang Su secretly heaved a sigh of relief. He gratefully looked at Tan Xiu and quickly retreated to the side. A bit of arrogance appeared on Du Yunlong's face as he crooked his finger at Tan Xiu and said, "Fighting with you is actually bullying you. Hence, I'll let you have 3 moves and I won't fight back within those 3 moves. But after 3 moves, I hope you can withstand my moves." Tan Xiu let out a strange smile. He strode forward like an arrow. When he was more than 2 meters away from Du Yunlong, his speed suddenly soared and his palm fiercely slapped the latter's face. Slap, 1 move. Tan Xiu's voice sounded, followed by a loud slap. Slap, 2 moves. Slap, 3 moves. Tan Xiu slapped him 3 times in a row and instantly retreated a few steps. He held his arms and looked at Du Yunlong with a faint smile, saying, 3 moves are over. Why don't you give it a try? Du Yunlong was stunned by Tan Xiu's 3 slaps. He had now broken through to the foundation establishment stage. Even a martial arts grandmaster was just like an ant in his eyes. If he wanted to, even dozens of martial arts grandmasters were not his match. But, how could his opponent have such a fast speed? He didn't even have time to react and was slapped 3 times. Who the hell was he? Du Yunlong's heart was filled with fear, but under Tan Xiu's faint smile, a strong sense of shame grew in his heart. He clenched his fists in an instant and took a step forward. The distance of a few meters was crossed in an instant, and his lightning-like fist hit Tan Xiu's face. Bang! The dull sound was not from Du Yunlong's fist hitting Tan Xiu's face. It was Tan Xiu who lifted his foot and kicked Du Yunlong's chest, directly kicking him 7 or 8 meters away and heavily falling to the ground. Cough! A mouthful of blood was coughed out from Du Yunlong's mouth. It was just a kick, but it had already injured his internal organs. Just at the moment when he bounced up from the ground, Tan Xiu appeared beside him like a shadow and rained punches on Du Yunlong's body. Although only a few punches hit his face, it still made his nose and face swollen. In the end, Du Yunlong's body hit the wall and then fell at the foot of the wall. Tan Xiu deliberately shook his wrist and smilingly said, "Only a few people can withstand my violent beating. Although I didn't use much strength, I did vent a lot of my anger tonight. Du Yunlong, if you still have the ability to stand up, we can continue to fight. But if you can't, it means you've lost." Du Yunlong coughed up a few mouthfuls of blood, but he endured the pain all over his body and propped his arms to get up from the ground. He didn't attack again, but shook his head with shock and fear, saying, "I lost. If you want to kill me, you only need 1 move to take my life. I've lost. I'm sincerely convinced. New week, please vote for me." Chapter 607. Du Yunjie's whole body seemed to be petrified. Never in his wildest dreams did he expect that his powerful brother would be defeated. Moreover, he was defeated without any strength to fight back. "Brother," Du Yunlong angrily shouted, "shut up. This matter is over." Du Yunjie turned his head and fearfully looked at Tan Xiu before he silently nodded. Even if he was unwilling, he had no choice but to bow his head under the eaves. He didn't want to die yet. Similarly, he also knew that today's matter would be spread to the entire Blue City's aristocratic circle. He would even be severely punished by his family. But his skill was inferior. Tan Xiu ignored Du Yunjie and sat back on the sofa. He lightly smiled and said, "Your injury is quite serious. But this is just a small punishment for standing up for your brother. Go back and recuperate for a few months and you'll be able to recover." At this moment, Du Yunlong clearly realized that Tan Xiu was also a cultivator, so he didn't have any resentment. He cupped his fists and said, "Friend, I admit that you're very strong now. But give me some time. I believe that I'll surpass you and defeat you sooner or later if I cultivate well." Tan Xiu said with a smile, "It's good to be confident, but don't let your brother come out and stir up trouble again. Since I've met you this time, I've been merciful because I admire your character. Otherwise, let alone letting you go back and recuperate for a few months, I might even cripple you." Du Yunlong's complexion turned serious as he immediately cupped his fists and said, "Rest assured. This kind of thing will never happen again." The conflict finally ended after Du Yunlong was beaten by Tan Xiu. Under the cordial invitation of Huang Su and Wang Zidong, Tan Xiu and Long Zhengyu were invited to the Supreme Hall, whereas the Du brothers left in embarrassment. As for Chang's corpse and the severely injured Blue City thugs, Du Yunlong sent his men to deal with the aftermath. In the Mercedes-Benz outside the building, Xiao Mingjin slowly opened his eyes. When his eyes fell on Du Yunlong, who had just returned from the window, his complexion slightly changed. He immediately opened the door and said in a deep voice, "Are you injured?" Du Yunlong was supported by his men and said bitterly, "I lost. My injury is quite serious and I need to recuperate for a few months." Xiao Mingjin was silent for a moment and suddenly said, "Everyone else, leave." In just a short minute, everyone, including Du Yunjie, drove away, leaving only Xiaomingzhen and Du Yunlong at the entrance. At this time, Xiaomingzhen asked in a deep voice, "Is he also a cultivator? Where did he come from?" "He's indeed a cultivator, but I don't know his origin," said Du Yunlong bitterly. "The other party is very powerful. The battle between us is completely one-sided. I don't have any power to fight back." Xiaomingzhen's pupils suddenly shrunk. He stood on the spot and pondered for a moment before he resolutely said, "Since this matter involves cultivators, I absolutely can't stand idly by. Let's go. Take me to him. I really want to know how capable he is." Du Yunlong quickly said, "Master, the enmity between my younger brother and them has been resolved. When I was inside, Huang Su hinted to me that if my guess is correct, the other party is probably from the imperial capital." "Imperial capital?" Xiaomingzhen was silent for a moment before he said, "I understand what you mean. I'm not going to take revenge for you, but cultivators are very strong and overbearing. I'm afraid that the other party still harbors a grudge in their hearts. Therefore, I'm going to see him to thoroughly settle this matter." Upon hearing this, Du Yunlong immediately nodded and said, "I'll take you there." Supreme Hall. Tan Xiao was nestled on the sofa, smoking a cigarette as he watched Huang Su clumsily making tea. A faint smile hung on his handsome face. In fact, he didn't blame Huang Su for today's matter. He even felt that Huang Su was actually a good person apart from being a bit lecherous. Especially after Huang Su stood in front of him to block the muzzle of Ah Chang's hand, which made Tan Xiao somewhat identify with him. Creak, the hall's door was pushed open from the outside. When Tan Xiao saw Du Yunlong coming from the outside, his brows couldn't help but wrinkle. But after he saw Xiaomingzhen following behind Du Yunlong, his wrinkled brows stretched out and was replaced with a somewhat strange expression. Xiaomingzhen stepped into the hall's door. After he saw the people inside, he was slightly stunned. Immediately after, an expression of being at a loss whether he had to laugh or cry was revealed in his eyes. He walked a few steps forward to stand in front of Du Yunlong and then stopped. He pointed at Tan Xiao and asked, "Is he the one who injured you?" Du Yunlong quickly said, "Master, it's him." Xiaomingzhen raised his arm and gently slapped his head. He then scolded with a smile, "You're a lucky brat. You're lucky to have met him. If you had met someone else, I would have already collected your corpse." Du Yunlong was dumbfounded. Listening to his master's words, could it be that he knew the other party? Xiaomingzhen forced a smile and shook his head. He then walked toward Tan Xiao and said, "Brother Tang, today's matter can be considered as a flood rushing against the Dragon King's temple. Please be magnanimous and don't lower yourself to the same level as my second apprentice." Tan Xiao smiled and stood up. He walked over to Xiaomingzhen and hugged him. Then, he said with a smile, "I didn't expect that he would turn out to be Brother Xiao's apprentice. However, you have a good vision. This brat's character is also good. He's a good apprentice candidate." After saying that, he reached into his clothes and took out a porcelain bottle from his interspatial ring. Then, he threw it to Du Yunlong and said, "Since you're Brother Xiao's apprentice, I should have given you a gift for our first meeting. But there's a small misunderstanding, so please accept this bottle of holy healing medicine. Your injury will be completely healed in 3 days." 3 days? I'll be completely healed. Du Yunlong's expression was blank for a moment before an ecstatic expression appeared on his face. Xiaomingzhen was very satisfied with Tan Xiao's action, so he said with a smile, "Brother Tang, I just learned that someone was able to injure Yunlong. I was curious about the identity of the other party, so I came to have a look. I really didn't expect to bump into you here. Aside from dealing with some private matters, I came to Blue City this time to go to Star City and have a few drinks with you." Long Zhengyu at the side said with a smile, "Uncle Xiao, I also want to have a few drinks with you." Xiaomingzhen said with a smile, "That's natural. Zhengyu, how's your dad? I'm counting on him to take charge of Blue City and make some money." Long Zhengyu said with a smile, "My dad is very good. He often talks about you, Uncle Xiao and Uncle Miao. He misses the days when he drank with you. Xiao Mingjin said with a clear and loud voice, rest assured. I'll go and have a drink with him in the near future. Huang Su and Wang Zidong at the side stared blankly. Never in their wildest dreams did they expect that Tan Xiu actually knew Du Yunlong's master. Moreover, they even addressed each other as brothers. The most important thing was that their relationship seemed to be very close. However, why did Tan Xiu and the other party address each other as brothers, while Long Zhenyu addressed him as Uncle Xiao? The two men looked at each other. Huang Su then stood up and said with a smile, Brother Tan Xiu and Zhenyu, since everyone knows each other, then I'll send some people to deliver the dishes and wine. Even if we meet each other by chance, I'll still be the host here. Immediately after, Du Yunlong introduced Huang Su and Wang Zidong to Xiao Mingjin. After all of them got to know each other, everyone drank wine, ate delicacies, and chatted about various topics. The atmosphere was very harmonious. After 3 rounds of wine, Xiao Mingjin and Tan Xiu agreed to meet again tomorrow and then left with Du Yunlong. As for Huang Su, he personally booked 2 suites for Tan Xiu and Long Zhenyu in the clubhouse and settled the two of them down. On the never-ending flow of vehicles on the highway, a Mercedes-Benz quickly moved forward. Inside the car, Du Yunlong's bruised and swollen face looked a bit confused. Many times, he wanted to ask about the confusion in his heart, but he swallowed the words back when they were at the tip of his tongue. Ask whatever you want to ask. Xiao Mingjin took back his vision from the window as he glanced at him and said. Du Yunlong finally asked, Master, what is Tan Xiu's identity in the end? His age shouldn't be older than me. How could he have such a strong strength? Xiao Mingjin sighed, his identity is very complicated. I'm afraid that what I know is only the tip of the iceberg. But even the tip of the iceberg is enough for me to deliberately approach him and express my goodwill. Do you still remember the reason why I came to Blue City? The person I want to express my goodwill to is him. Tan Xiu. Du Yunlong's eyes stared wide as he said in horror, what is his identity? To think that he's actually worth you, master. Xiao Mingjin forced a smile and said, when I first met him, his strength was not as good as yours. But in just a short period of more than half a year, his strength has probably surpassed mine. As for his identity, I'll tell you about it. Do you know about the Magnificent Tang Corporation? He's the big boss behind the Magnificent Tang Corporation. A shocked expression was revealed on Du Yunlong's face. Xiao Mingjin continued, Tan Xiu is also a member of the Tang family in the imperial capital. According to the news I got, Tan Xiu was the one who killed the Amur tiger. The Yao family in the imperial capital was ruined because of him. Hiss, Du Yunlong gasped. He secretly felt lucky inside. Fortunately, he didn't completely offend Tan Xiu today. Otherwise, his Du family was afraid. Xiao Mingjin's tone suddenly turned particularly serious as he lowered his voice and said, what I said is only about Tan Xiu's very ordinary identity. He also has another identity, the Everlasting Feast Hall's boss. I didn't tell you about the existence of the Everlasting Feast Hall before because I was afraid that you would have bad thoughts in your cultivation. But now, I must tell you that the Everlasting Feast Hall is a terrifying force. If you run into the Everlasting Feast Hall's people later, you must only make friends with them and not be enemies. Du Yunlong quickly asked, Master, what's so terrifying about the Everlasting Feast Hall? Xiao Mingjin faintly sighed and said, its terror lies in the fact that up until now, no one has figured out how terrifying the Everlasting Feast Hall's strength is. No one knows how many cultivators the Everlasting Feast Hall has. Du Yunlong's body trembled as a chill rose inside his heart. Such a terrifying force, perhaps none of the families in the country would be able to compare with it, right? The strength of cultivators was absolutely terrifying. If the Everlasting Feast Hall had a large number of cultivators, then suddenly, Du Yunlong realized that Tan Xiu was the Everlasting Feast Hall's boss. Today's first chapter, please continue to ask for monthly votes. Every 100 monthly votes will add 1 chapter __. Chapter 608. The news of Tan Xiu's arrival in Blue City didn't spread out due to the conflict in the Clear Lake Club. After Huang Su learned from Long Zhengyu that Tan Xiu was on fire again, he immediately informed every employee in the club who had seen Tan Xiu to block the news. Therefore, Tan Xiu's stay in Blue City was very comfortable for the next few days. There was no media to disturb him, and there were no messy things to deal with. Every day, he drank some wine, ate some delicacies, and stayed in the guest room to read and cultivate. His days were very fulfilling. It's snowing again. Inside the most luxurious suite in the Clear Lake Club's guest room, Tan Xiu stood by the window and looked at the fluttering snowflakes. He sighed faintly inside. Not counting the 10,000 years in the immortal world, every time it snowed, it was the most difficult time for him and his mother before he turned 18. In particular, the heating issue was so serious that it was like being tortured. Knock, knock, the door was knocked, pulling Tan Xiu back from his memories. He waved his hand and released his primal chaos force, gently opening the door. Come in. Long Zhengyu, who was standing outside the door, was surprised to find that the door was cracked open. He pushed the door and entered. When he saw Tan Xiu standing by the window, he immediately froze and looked at the door suspiciously. Then, he looked at Tan Xiu and immediately entered the room with a bit of a daze. I'm leaving, Tan Xiu. Then let's go back together. Tan Xiu said with a faint smile. It's been 4 or 5 days, so it's time to go back. Long Zhengyu quickly waved his hand and said, No, I'm going to Nine Dragons Island. Long Zhengyu quickly waved his hand and said, Because of your request, all the workers can't return home, so the necessary benefits must be distributed. When will you come back? Asked Tan Xiu. A week at most, said Long Zhengyu with a smile. Bring Mu Qingping and Yinin back when you come back, said Tan Xiu. You're really good to your treasured disciple, said Long Zhengyu with a smile. Tan Xiu didn't say anything more because Long Zhengyu didn't understand the special nature of the sects of cultivators. A teacher for a day is a father for life. In the immortal world, the elders of the sect were sometimes more important than the biological parents. Parents can accompany you for a while, but not for a lifetime. As for the seniors of the sect, their cultivation bases were powerful. They had been in the immortal world for thousands and tens of thousands of years. The feelings they had accumulated year after year were extremely deep. As Long Zhengyu left, Tan Xiu looked at the falling snowflakes outside and hesitated whether he should return to Star City now or not. His parents were still in the capital. As for what they were doing, he wasn't sure. There wasn't much difference between returning to Star City and staying in Blue City. Forget it, let's stay for a few more days. At least there's someone here to serve us well. Tan Xiu sneered and reached out to close the window. Suddenly, his expression changed slightly, and his gaze fell through the window onto the parking lot 100 meters away. To his surprise, he actually saw a familiar face. Li Shaoqian. She seemed to have gone to the Regal Classical Music Academy. Now that the school should be on holiday, shouldn't she go back to Star City? How come she's here? Also, those people around her don't look like her classmates and are older. Could they be her family? Tan Xiu secretly shook his head. He had almost cut off contact with Li Shaoqian ever since he graduated from high school. It was only when he was with Qing Yannan that he learned some things about Li Shaoqian from Qing Yannan. Thinking about Qing Yannan, Tan Xiu was a bit surprised. After he went directly to the imperial capital from Jingmen Island, Qing Yannan stayed in the Everlasting Feast Hall. Later on, she went to Clam Island with the experts of the Everlasting Feast Hall. Could it be that she hadn't come back yet? Tan Xiu grabbed his mobile and dialed Qing Yannan's number. The result was that the call couldn't be connected for the time being. He recalled Qing Yannan's bitter experience, as well as the missing Qing Xueme. He secretly felt sorry for the sisters' rough and tumble life. He was once like them, suffering the torment of life with his mother. Now that he had come out from that dark world, they were still trapped in it. I'll help them if I have the chance. Closing the window, Tan Xiu got up and walked toward the door. He had been holed up in the suite all day. Although he didn't feel bored, he still wanted to go out for a walk. As for suddenly seeing Li Shaoqian, Tan Xiu didn't want to disturb her. Since their time as classmates had ended, everyone had their own life trajectory. He didn't belong here in the future, so he wouldn't have too much contact with them. Half an hour later, Wang Zidong, who had been living in the suite next door for a few days, was yawning on the sofa out of boredom. The Playboy magazine in his hand and the pretty girl on the cover couldn't make him feel energetic. These days, he really wanted to get close to Tan Xiu and cultivate their relationship. Unfortunately, Tan Xiu was holed up in the suite every day. He could only see him a few times during meals. Forget it, I'll find a girl to talk about life with. Wang Zidong jumped up, grabbed his coat, and walked out of the door. When he came out of the building, his handsome face suddenly changed. His originally dull eyes also revealed an infatuated look, which set off his face, making him look like a love-struck fool. Only a dozen meters away from him, in front of the Hummer with a domineering aura, a girl in black leather clothes and black sunglasses leaned against the car key in her hand. Her perfect face and devilish figure gave her a wild sense of beauty. Stunning. Moved. Wang Zidong thought he had seen countless women, but he had never seen such a hot girl who could move his heart. After a dozen seconds of sluggishness, he came to his senses and rushed toward the girl. Hey, beauty, do I have the honor to invite you for lunch? Oh, that's right, let me introduce myself. I'm Wang Zidong, one of the shareholders of this Clear Lake Club. Ouyang Lulu raised her hand and pulled down the frame of her sunglasses. She looked at Wang Zidong and then casually said, "Do you know any girl more beautiful than me?" Wang Zidong stared blankly for a moment before he shook his head and smilingly said, "No." Ouyang Lulu asked again, then, "Do you have tens of billions or even hundreds of billions of assets?" Wang Zidong was a bit embarrassed, but he still shook his head and said, "Nope." Ouyang Lulu looked at him contemptuously and asked again, "What about your fame? You don't need to be too famous. You just need to be a household name in our country." Wang Zidong's lips squirmed. He was quite famous in Blue City, but he was not a star. How could it be possible for him to be a household name in the country? He shook his head and said again, "Nope." Ouyang Lulu rolled her eyes. Although she was still flirtatious, her words were not pleasant to hear. "You don't have anything, so why would you invite me for lunch? Hurry up and leave. I don't like embroidered pillows." Embroidered pillows? Wang Zidong was dumbfounded and tongue-tied as though he couldn't believe his ears. This wild and stunning chick in front of him actually said that he was an embroidered pillow? Suddenly, Ouyang Lulu seemed to recall something. She looked at Wang Zidong again and said, "Forget it. It's not like I can't give you a chance. As long as you do me a favor, I can let you accompany me for lunch." "What favor?" Wang Zidong was at a loss whether he had to cry or laugh. "Do you know Tan Xiu?" asked Ouyang Lulu. "It doesn't matter if you don't know him. You're a shareholder of this club, so it should be easy for you to inquire about him. Take me to him." Wang Zidong stared blankly at Ouyang Lulu. He opened his mouth and suddenly had a bad premonition. With a bit of probing tone, he asked after a while, "Are you looking for Tan Xiu?" "You and him." "I'm looking for him." "He's my man," said Ouyang Lulu. Gotcha. Wang Zidong seemed to be able to hear the sound of his heart breaking. It was very difficult for him to be moved by those women. But today, he finally met one, and she turned out to be Tan Xiu's woman. This was really a dog shit. Had it been someone else's woman, he would have dared to snatch her even if it was Huang Su's woman. But for Tan Xiu's woman, even if he was given 100 times more courage, he would never dare to have even half a thought of touching her. Wang Zidong straightened his attitude and hid the throbbing in his heart. He then said with a smile, "It turns out to be sister-in-law. Tan Xiu should be in his room. Let's go. I'll take you to him." "Sister-in-law?" Ouyang Lulu's mouth was outlined and a satisfied smile appeared on her beautiful face. It was just a title, but it made her favorable impression on Wang Zidong increase a lot. The duo came to the door of Tan Xiu's suite. After knocking on the door for a long time, they didn't get any response. Therefore, Wang Zidong contacted the club's staff. After asking, he learned that Tan Xiu had gone to the movie hall. Movie hall. Inside the fully heated and luxurious movie hall, Tan Xiu was nestled in the last row of chairs, drinking fragrant tea and watching the movie on the big screen in front of him. Due to his 10,000 years of experience in the immortal world, he wasn't interested in the scenes shown in the movies. However, Western sci-fi blockbusters still gave him a lot of inspiration. The power of science and technology. Nowadays, the power of science and technology on Earth was very weak. He had seen more powerful technological races before, but it was after he became a supreme in the immortal world. Therefore, the technology of these technological races was nothing to him. However, the interstellar war shown in the movie gave him a feeling that if the power of science and technology was developed to the limit, even those powerful thermal weapons could become a powerful armed force of Star City. For example, the interstellar battleships. If they could manufacture hundreds of millions of powerful interstellar battleships, they would definitely be able to sweep countless starfields. The immortal world was like the Eastern Xianxia. The technological races were like the sci-fi blockbusters. Tan Xiu was perfectly aware of the power of military force. But if he could learn from their strong points to offset their weak points and combine it with the power of science and technology, wouldn't he be able to accumulate a stronger armed force in a short time? It's a pity that I didn't get any technology from the technological races I saw in the Hanging Snail Starfield. Otherwise, Earth's science and technology could definitely advance by leaps and bounds and reach the lowest level of the universe's technological civilization. However, I can still design some small things. Even if they are gadgets, if they appear on Earth, they should cause a huge sensation, right? Chapter 609. The sci-fi blockbuster was still playing on the screen, but Tan Xiu's mind couldn't stay on it. The more he thought about it, the more excited he got. The technological products he had seen in the hanging spiral starfield kept surging in his mind. Only with imagination could there be results. In a short time, Tan Xiu had determined 2 products that he could try to research. The first was the gravitational frisbee, an object that could fly by stepping on the button. It was also the most basic means of transportation for the technological race, just like the bicycle on Earth. The second was clothing, which could ensure that it would be warm in winter and cool in summer. It was also the most basic technological knowledge for the technological race. I must research it. As more and more talents are trained in the future, the resources needed to be consumed will be more and more. It's far from enough to rely on the current channels to make money. A firm look appeared in Tan Xiu's eyes. Money was the foundation for a foothold. Tens of billions. Hundreds of billions. This amount of money might be a very huge number for others, but it was far from enough for him. He had his own pursuits and goals after his rebirth. He needed to pave the way for the future with money. Suddenly, Tan Xiu's expression moved. He was keenly aware that a figure was sitting on the seat next to him, accompanied by a very familiar and fragrant perfume. Lulu. A surprised expression appeared on Tan Xiu's face after he saw Ouyang Lulu sitting next to him. Shoo! Ouyang Lulu put her finger on her lips and shushed him. She then handed over a bucket of popcorn in her other hand. Tan Xiu couldn't help laughing. He shook his head and asked with a voice that only the 2 of them could hear, "Don't worry. There are only a few audiences in the entire movie hall, and they're all sitting in the front. Our conversation won't affect them. I just want to watch a movie with you comfortably." Ouyang Lulu said with a shallow smile. "I used to think it was childish, but now that I'm with you, I think it's very romantic." Cough, cough. Tan Xiu coughed a few times and turned his head, no longer speaking. The 120-minute sci-fi blockbuster would end in only 50 minutes. Tan Xiu stopped talking. Ouyang Lulu also had a satisfied smile on her face. She ate the popcorn and glanced at Tan Xiu from time to time. He even put the popcorn in his hand near Tan Xiu's mouth several times. The movie ended. As the audience in the front row left, Tan Xiu stood up with a smile. After taking off the 3D glasses, he smiled and said, "The movie is over, let's go out." Ouyang Lulu stood up while holding the popcorn bucket. She stretched her body comfortably and said, "I've been driving for 6 or 7 hours in one go. I'm so tired that I almost died. I really don't want to get up to watch a movie here." With a strange expression, Tan Xiu said, "You haven't told me how you broke through and came to Blue City. And, how did you know I was at the Clear Lake Club?" Ouyang Lulu giggled and said, "I was talking business with Long Zhengyu on the phone 2 days ago, and I inadvertently learned that you two are vacationing here. So I came running. Don't tell me you don't welcome me." Tan Xiu forced a wry smile inwardly. Although he didn't want to hide from Ouyang Lulu, every time he met her, he was a bit helpless because of her passionate and bold pursuit, which made him somewhat complain about Long Zhengyu's big mouth. "I'm hungry. Let's go eat." Ouyang Lulu didn't wait for Tan Xiu to answer. She grabbed his wrist and walked toward the outside. Wang Zidong had been waiting in the hall outside the movie hall. When he saw Ouyang Lulu pulling Tan Xiu out of the hall, his mood was a bit complicated. He got up from the sofa and greeted them with a faint smile. "You finally came out. If you didn't come out, I'm afraid I would have been starving." "Why are you here, Wang Zidong?" Tan Xiu curiously asked. "He hit on me and knew that I came to see you, so he brought me here," said Ouyang Lulu with a smile. A bit of embarrassment appeared on Wang Zidong's face, but he still braced himself and said, "Since ancient times, heroes have always loved beauties. Who else could it be other than you, sister-in-law? That's why I thickened my face to hit on you. Don't mention such an embarrassing thing again, else I'll be laughed at by everyone." "All right, I won't say it." Ouyang Lulu's big eyes turned into crescent moons. "Sister-in-law." Tan Xiu looked at Wang Zidong and then turned to look at Ouyang Lulu. Suddenly, he felt his wrist tighten. He immediately understood that Wang Zidong regarded Ouyang Lulu as his woman. No, even if Ouyang Lulu came to see him, he didn't need to call her sister-in-law, right? It must be Ouyang Lulu. She must have said something to Wang Zidong. Tan Xiu was at a loss whether he had to cry or laugh when thinking about this situation. Being thick-skinned was the king's way for a man to pick up a girl, and Ouyang Lulu used this principle to the fullest. "I feel like I'm being picked up." Tan Xiu raised his hand to touch the bridge of his nose, driving out the absurd thoughts in his heart and said, "It should be lunchtime now. Let's have a meal together." "That's right, why didn't Huang Su come today? If he did, call him and ask him to join us." Wang Zidong, who was still considering whether it would be inappropriate for a third will like him to have a meal together with them, suddenly felt very happy after hearing Tan Xiu's words. One person following them would be a third wheel, but 2 people following them would be a dinner party. After finishing the call, Wang Zidong looked at Tan Xiu and said, "I just called Huang Su. He said he's on his way back from the airport. He also asked me to tell you that Fei Shan also came back from the city." "Tan Xiu, you also know the second brother of the Fei family?" "I know him," said Tan Xiu with a smile. "Brother Tan Xiu, your network is really powerful," said Wang Zidong with a heartfelt sigh. "If I didn't know that this is your first time coming to Blue City, I would have thought that you're a Blue City native. The second brother of the Fei family has always had his eyes on the top of his head, and he's very arrogant even in front of me." "Fei Shan is very arrogant?" Tan Xiu was surprised. "I don't feel it usually, do I?" "All right." Wang Zidong gave Tan Xiu a convinced look and secretly forced a wry smile inwardly. But thinking about it, what kind of status did Tan Xiu have? Even if Fei Shan was the second son of the Fei family, there was still a big gap between him and Tan Xiu, a rich playboy in the imperial capital. Thus, it was natural that he couldn't be arrogant in front of Tan Xiu. Everyone enjoyed lunch in the Supreme Hall. The travel-worn Fei Shan, who came back from the city, was in high spirits because of Tan Xiu's arrival. While eating and drinking, he heard that Tan Xiu had cleaned up Du Yunjie and even Du Yunlong was easily beaten down by Tan Xiu. The worship in his eyes could almost melt the ice and snow. In the private room on the third floor of the dining hall, Li Xiaoqian looked at the four drunk men in front of her, feeling somewhat restless. Sitting on her left was her mentor, an associate professor of the Regal Classical Music Academy, who had a strong network in the music circle. Sitting on her right was the director and producer of the recent I'm Crazy for Singing program of the Blue City TV station, as well as a regular guest of great importance. She was very talented in music, and was even loved by many teachers and professors in the school. This time, her mentor, Tang Zhen, brought her out to socialize, hoping that she could participate in the third I'm Crazy for Singing program, so that she could be favored by the program team, the director, and the guests in the competition. Then, through them, she could build a good relationship with the judges, and finally get an excellent ranking in the competition. Li Xiaoqian didn't like this kind of socializing, but she couldn't refuse the kindness of her mentor. She could only endure the depression in her heart, sit here and accompany them to drink, listening to the dirty jokes that often popped out when they talked. Xiaoqian, we've enjoyed this meal to our heart's content. You're also a good student of the music academy, and you have great potential. We must drink this glass of wine. Let's go to the entertainment hall to sing and enjoy ourselves after this glass. Let's see your wonderful singing voice face to face. The director raised his glass while his other hand touched the back of Li Xiaoqian's hand. Li Xiaoqian hurriedly retracted her hand, picked up the glass, and stood up. She squeezed out a smile on her pretty face and said, "Director Bai, I drank too much wine today, and now I feel like the world is spinning. I'm afraid I won't be able to stand it if I go to the entertainment hall to sing again. I'll toast this glass of wine first, and then I'll go back first." Having said that, she directly drank the wine in the glass and then reached out to grab the bag hanging on the chair behind her. However, the middle-aged director put the glass back on the table and said with a dissatisfied look on his face, "Xiaoqian, we're having a good chat, yet you suddenly want to go back. Aren't you going to spoil everyone's mood? If that's the case, I really don't dare to drink this glass of wine anymore." The male guest also looked displeased and said, "Xiaoqian, I believe you've already told me about my relationship with the four judges at the table just now, yes? We're partners in the show, and we're also buddies in private. Also, most of the media and public judges in the final segment are my connections. You want to participate in our show and win the championship, but can you do it without my help?" Tang Zhen frowned and a dissatisfied expression appeared on his face. He was not dissatisfied with Director Bai, nor was it because of the guest, but rather Li Xiaoqian, who spoke rudely and wanted to leave. Although he was the one who wanted Li Xiaoqian to participate in the Blue City TV station's I'm Crazy for Singing program, he could also see that she was very excited. In this day and age, if one wanted to get something, one must pay something. How many female students wanted to stand out in the past, but didn't they end up making some deals in private? Moreover, it was not him who wanted to take advantage of her today, but these people in front of him. If Li Xiaoqian could serve them well and accompany Director Bai in the evening, then even if she couldn't win the championship, it was still possible for her to win the second and third place in the I'm Crazy for Singing program's third competition. "Xiaoqian, don't talk nonsense while you're drunk. Hurry up and drink a glass with Director Bai and apologize to them." Tang Zhen reprimanded her in a low voice with a serious face. Li Xiaoqian was stunned with an incredulous look in her eyes. "Thanks to all the brothers and sisters for your strong support. Today, I present the third chapter to you. You didn't stop updating after a trip to Japan. Quiet Night is stunned by your own professionalism. Praise yourself ! Chapter 610. Supreme Hall. The pure fragrance of God's nectar filled the entire hall. Because Ouyang Lulu was here, Tan Xiu and the others didn't smoke. Originally, Huang Su and Fei Shan were a bit unnatural when they saw Ouyang Lulu, as they wanted to perform well in front of the bell. But after hearing Wang Zidong say that Ouyang Lulu was Tang Xiu's woman, they immediately let it go and called her sister-in-law, making Ouyang Lulu smile. Tang Xiu tried to correct them, but it didn't have any effect, so he didn't bother to say it again. The movie gave him some inspiration, so after Ouyang Lulu left the hall, he asked Huang Su and the other two about scientific and technological talents. But the result was disappointing. The three of them didn't know any scientific and technological talents. Tang Xiu wanted to establish a scientific and technological research institute and wanted to dig out some scientific and technological talents through various channels, but he didn't know any acquaintances. Helpless. Tang Xiu gulped down the wine in his glass and saw Ouyang Lulu coming from the outside. Just as he put the glass on the table, his expression slightly stagnated. Li Xiaoqian. How did she? Tang Xiu looked at Li Xiaoqian's disheveled appearance and saw the bloodstain on the corner of her mouth. A confused expression appeared in his eyes as he stood up and asked, Lulu, you and Xiaoqian. Just as Li Xiaoqian entered the door, she saw Tang Xiu sitting inside. In a flash, disbelief appeared in her eyes, but it was replaced by ecstasy in just a few seconds. Under everyone's surprised eyes, Li Xiaoqian trotted to Tang Xiu's side. With excitement and a bit of grievance, she grabbed Tang Xiu's arm and whimpered, Tang Xiu, are you okay? Tang Xiu asked in a low voice. Li Xiaoqian shook her head desperately, but tears flowed out of her eyes. Do you know each other? Ouyang Lulu was surprised. Xiaoqian is my high school classmate, said Tang Xiu. Such a coincidence? Asked Ouyang Lulu with a strange expression. What happened? Tang Xiu nodded without a word and asked. Upon hearing it, Ouyang Lulu immediately said angrily, I just came out of the bathroom and saw a man chasing her. Later, I learned that the man is her mentor, a beast in human clothing. Ouyang Lulu told them what she knew, and Li Xiaoqian added a few more details. Immediately, everyone in the room showed an angry expression. They never thought that an associate professor of the Regal Classical Music Academy would be so shameless. Similarly, the director, producer, and guests of I'm Crazy About Singing turned out to be sanctimonious gangsters and scum. Huang Su angrily said, I'll send someone to arrest them. I won't spare them for daring to do such despicable things in my Clear Lake Club. Tang Xiu raised his hand to stop him. A cold glint flashed in his eyes as he said, Don't worry, Huang Su. Xiaoqian is my high school classmate, Xiaoqian, and I won't stand when she gets. However, since these people are scum, I'll make them unable to turn over a new leaf for the rest of their lives. Lulu, take Xiaoqian to my room first. I'll see you after we've arranged everything. This, all right. Ouyang Lulu nodded. After asking Tang Xiu's room number, she left with Li Xiaoqian. In the living room, Huang Su asked with a murderous aura, What should we do next, Tang Xiu? After sitting on the sofa, Tang Xiu squinted his eyes and said, Spend some money to find some ladies of good quality, and then make them do their best to stay with those 4 bastards in the Clear Lake Club for a night. Remember, find a way to install a camera in the room and record everything they do in the room. Can you do it? That's too simple. Huang Su sneered. There are a lot of ladies in the Royal Hotel nearby who are willing to come on stage. They'll absolutely be happy to accompany them as long as you give them enough money. Alright, then let's discuss the details. Tang Xiu nodded and said, Since we're going to mess with them, then we'll make them die. It's best if we can put them in prison and make them eat prison meals for at least a few years. If they're put in prison, I can guarantee that they'll have to live a miserable life with no help from the heavens and the earth, said Fei Shan in a deep voice. After a few minutes of discussion, Huang Su and Fei Shan acted in a hurry, while Wang Zidong, who had just returned, played an important role. On the 3rd floor. Along with Li Chunlei and 2 waiters, Wang Zidong smilingly stepped into the private box where Tang Zhen, director Bai, and the other 2 were staying. He watched the 4 people's livid faces and clamoring about who they wanted to teach them a lesson. Then, he clapped his hands and smilingly said, For guests, I'm Wang Zidong, the general manager of Clear Lake Club, and this is Manager Lee of the Food and Beverage Department. Looking at your angry faces, could it be that our Clear Lake Club is not good enough? Are you dissatisfied with us? Upon hearing this, Director Bai's group of 4 immediately looked surprised. Director Bai's expression changed and turned cordial as he smilingly said, I didn't expect to see you here, young Master Wang. I'm Baian from Blue City TV station. I saw you from afar when you came to our TV station last year. Wang Zidong stared blankly for a moment before he immediately understood and smilingly said, It turns out to be a friend from the provincial TV station. Forgive me for my poor eyesight, but I didn't recognize you just now. Just now, you were. Director Bai's group of 4 was a bit embarrassed, but he was quick-witted and thick-skinned, so he forced a smile and said, It's no big deal. It's just a little girl who drank too much and was being unreasonable, so we've already driven her away. Wang Zidong secretly despised them inwardly, but he suddenly looked enlightened on his face and smilingly said, You're all grown men coming out to drink, yet it's inconvenient to bring a little girl along. As for me, I'm here to congratulate you on a happy occasion. A happy occasion? Director Bai was surprised. What happy occasion? Director Bai asked in surprise. Wang Zidong clapped his hands and the 2 waiters came to the front with 2 bottles of God's nectar. Wang Zidong picked up the God's nectar from the tray and smilingly said, It's like this. Our Clear Lake Club has a clear rule that every 99, 999, 9999, 99,999, and 99,999 customers are the lucky customers of our club. Not only can you enjoy free consumption here, but you can also get the God's nectar we provide. You're our club's 999th row guest. What? Director Bai was surprised, whereas Tang Zhen and the other 2 looked at the 2 bottles of God's nectar with fiery eyes. Nowadays, the God's nectar's reputation could be said to be well known by all, and all wine lovers regarded it as the bejeweled nectar. Unfortunately, the price of God's nectar was too expensive, and the quantity sold on the market was very few. Even though they had drunk it a few times before, it still took them a lot of effort. Also, there's a 3-choice program for you to choose, said Wang Zidong with a smile. What program is it? Asked Director Bai quickly. First, a 3-day tour to Japan and South Korea, with air tickets, meals, and accommodation included. Second, a movie card provided by the New Era Film and Television Group, with unlimited viewing times throughout the year. Third, Director Bai was secretly shocked inwardly. He didn't expect that his luck would be so good today that he could get such a good treatment. Yet, Wang Zidong unexpectedly didn't say the third one. A strong curiosity suddenly rose inside him and he asked, What's the third one? Wang Zidong waved to the 2 waiters and motioned them to leave. Then, he said with a playful smile, Since you're all men in the box, then I'll tell you. That program is a spring night is worth 1,000 gold, provided by our club. There are a lot of beautiful women and handsome men in the entertainment hall who will accompany you for a night. Whether you choose a beautiful woman or a handsome man with a heavy taste, there's no problem. This, Director Bai and the other 3 were shocked. Never in their dreams did they expect that the third program would turn out to be, in a flash. The 4 men's eyes lit up. Under the influence of alcohol, Director Bai clapped his hands and happily said, We're not interested in the first or second place. Since we came out to play, we must have a good time. Let's go with the third one. Which one of you needs a handsome man? If not, then how about choosing a beautiful woman? All right. No problem. The 3 men nodded with burning hearts. Inwardly, Wang Zidong was secretly amused. At the same time, he admired Tan Xiu's 3-choice plan even more. Looking at their expressions, Wang Zidong said with a smile, If that's the case, then the 4 of you can slowly taste the God's nectar first. I'll tell Manager Lee to go to the entertainment hall in advance to prepare it. But I have a condition, and I hope the 4 of you can agree to it. What condition? Director Bai was confused. The four of you are people with status and identity, so I hope you can recommend our Clear Lake Club to your circle of friends in the future and often come to support us, said Wang Zidong seriously. No problem. Well said, well said. The four men readily agreed. Half an hour later, the four men had dined and drank to their heart's content and came to the entertainment hall under the guidance of the waiter. When they entered the luxurious private room, a row of 8 fashionably dressed beautiful women nodded to the four men. Li Chunlei, who had been waiting for a long time, smilingly said, "They are the service staff of our Clear Lake Club. They will do their best to serve you tonight. I won't disturb you any longer. If you have any other needs, just tell me." That's right, the housekeeping department has already booked 4 rooms for you to stay in at any time. Thank you, Manager Li. Director Bai shot a grateful look at Li Chunlei. Before he left the private room, he hurriedly walked toward 2 beautiful women with good figures. The 4 men were all veterans in the world. Their eyesight was even sharper, and they could naturally see that these 8 women were not pure and decent girls. Therefore, under the influence of alcohol, they also threw away their pretense of decency and decency. Each of them hugged 2 beautiful women and teased and played with them. As for those 8 beautiful women, they were also veterans of the pleasures scene, so they naturally knew how to win the favor of a man. After receiving the sky-high fees from Huang Su, they used all their skills to serve the 4 of them to their utmost satisfaction. Chapter 611. You reap what you sow. Even if there was such a good thing as a meat pie falling from the sky in this world, the probability of it falling on your head was very small. Alcohol was not a good medicine, and it would make people lose their cool and reason. Therefore, it was a simple trap, yet Tang Zhen, Director Bai, and the others easily fell into it. What awaited them was a tragic end. Tan Xiu watched as the 4 filthy people who cursed Wang Zidong were taken away by the police. Then, he dialed Ouyang Lulu's number and said, "Bring Li Xiaoqian out. Go to the police station and sue these 4 bastards. It would be perfect if they can prove their attempted rape charges." "All right, I'll be right there." Ouyang Lulu replied with a smile and hung up the phone. Tan Xiu took a deep breath and patted Wang Zidong's shoulder, saying, "I've let you suffer. Remember to contact me when you go to Star City. I'll invite you to the best suite in the Long's dining hall." Wang Zidong's eyes lit up and he immediately said with a smile, "I'll definitely go there when I have time." He was very excited inside. Through Tan Xiu's words just now, he was very clear that Tan Xiu had accepted him. Perhaps they were just ordinary friends, but at least they had reached the level of friends. Suddenly, he was very grateful to Tang Zhen, Director Bai, and the others. If it weren't for them treating Tan Xiu's female classmates with such ugly faces, how could he have such an opportunity to win their favor? Tan Xiu did not participate in the following matters, but the development of the incident was as he had planned. Because of Li Xiaoqian's report, after a detailed investigation, coupled with the Huang, Fei, and Wang families adding fuel to the fire, the 4 men were detained. Wang Zidong even sent the video of the 4 men in the Clear Lake Club to their homes. As a result, the wives and other family members of the 4 men made a scene in the detention center. In the end, 4 divorce papers were sent to the 4 men. Because of their marital affairs, the property distribution waiting for them would be pitifully small. Ruined and discredited. This was the most realistic portrayal of the 4 men. On the 2nd day after the matter came to an end, there were only 3 days left before the New Year's Eve. Ouyang Lulu returned to Jingmen Island with a heart full of reluctance. Long Zhengyu also returned from 9 Dragons Island along with Mu Qingping and Gu Yin. After half a year, Gu Yin had grown a full 5 or 6 centimeters taller. Her petite body was ramrod straight, and she had a noble air about her. After seeing Tan Xiu, she was very excited and stuck to Tan Xiu, unwilling to leave his side for even half a step. Mu Qingping explained the current situation of 9 Dragons Island to Tan Xiu in detail. Moreover, she had completely familiarized herself with the environment there. In addition, after the trainer's training, she had become a very qualified housekeeper. She even trained a lot of servants through her hard work. The number of servants in the palace on Nine Dragons Island had now reached 80. I'm short of money. This was the last word that Mu Qingping said after she finished reporting the situation over there. Tan Xiu faintly smiled and transferred 20 million yuan to Mu Qingping's account through his mobile phone. Then, he said with a smile, money is not a problem. If you don't have money later, just tell me in advance. Mu Qingping was very satisfied with Tan Xiu. She found that ever since she met Tan Xiu, her whole life had become brilliant. It was as if she was dreaming. From a wandering and miserable woman who took her daughter everywhere to seek medical treatment, she had become a housekeeper in the eyes of many people. She lived in a luxurious palace without worrying about food, clothing, housing, and transportation. She was in charge of 80 servants and could also command dozens of armed forces with extraordinary skills. Before coming here, Mo An asked me to ask you when you can let them go back. They heard that the HQ in Jingmen Island has cultivation resources for sale. They have a lot of money, but they can only receive the resources issued by the HQ and can't buy them with their own money. Tan Xiu's expression moved as he nodded and said, I'll write it down. I'll arrange it later. Big Sis Mu, you just came back from abroad. You must be tired from the long journey, so stay here first. We'll go back to Star City together tomorrow. Mu Qingping faintly smiled and asked, how are your parents? Tan Xiu said with a smile, they are now in the imperial capital. I called them yesterday and they said that they will return to Star City the day after tomorrow. Let's go back earlier and prepare some New Year's goods in advance. Big Sis Mu, we're a family. We'll celebrate the New Year together every year. Mu Qingping's heart warmed as she nodded and said, originally, we were a widow and an orphan. But now it's different. With you and your parents, Yining and I have a few more relatives. Gu Yin snuggled up to Tan Xiu and said with a smile, Yining misses Grandpa and Grandma. Master, do Grandpa and Grandma miss Yining? Tan Xiu said with a smile, of course they miss you. They often talk about Yining. If it weren't for so many things happening in this half a year, perhaps they would have gone to Nine Dragons Island to see Yining. That's right, tell Master, how's your cultivation going now? Gu Yin was a bit disheartened upon hearing it and said, Master, Yining hasn't been able to cultivate the golden core in these 2 months. Tan Xiu stared blankly and hurriedly asked, your cultivation has broken through to the late stage of foundation establishment? Gu Yin said, yes. I reached the late stage of foundation establishment 2 months ago. Master, don't you think Yining is stupid? I desperately want to condense my golden core, but no matter how hard I try, I can't condense it. That's right, Uncle An and Uncle Al gave Yining 2 medicinal pills, but Yining still can't condense it after taking it. Tan Xiu was secretly speechless. Gu Yin had been cultivating for just half a year. From a child who didn't know how to cultivate, her cultivation had advanced by leaps and bounds. Now, she had reached the late stage of foundation establishment. This speed was absolutely terrifying. Even in the immortal world, those children who were hailed as geniuses could step into the foundation establishment stage in half a year. Moreover, it was under the circumstance that they had a lot of cultivation resources to help them. Physique is truly an innate capital. Tan Xiu secretly sighed inwardly and said with a smile, Yining, your cultivation time is still very short. Breaking through to the late stage of foundation establishment stage in half a year is already very amazing. Listen to Master. Don't think about condensing your golden core in the near future. Just stabilize your foundation establishment stage. When you feel that you can break through, then condense your golden core and become a golden core expert. Gu Yin quickly nodded and laughed, Yining will listen to Master's words. For the whole day, Gu Yin stuck to Tan Xiu's side, while Mu Qingping went to her room to rest. Huang Su, Fei Shan, and even Wang Zidong rushed to the club. They talked with Long Zhengyu and learned that he brought Tan Xiu's little apprentice. They immediately sent someone to buy a lot of gifts. Night fell. Inside the luxurious room of the Supreme Hall, Gu Yin looked at the exquisite gift boxes piled high in front of her. Her delicate and lovely face looked excited. Yinin, these are our gifts for you. Open them and see if you like them. Huang Su said with a smile. Thank you, uncle. After Gu Yin expressed her thanks, she opened the beautifully packaged gift boxes. Clothes, shoes, princess hats, exquisite watches, mobile phones, tablets. Under the attentive gaze of Huang Su and the others, the excitement on Gu Yin's face decreased a bit every time she opened an exquisite gift box. After she opened more than a dozen gift boxes, there was no trace of joy on her face anymore. Huang Su, Fei Shan, and Wang Zidong looked at each other in dismay. They couldn't figure out what was going on with Gu Yin. Why did she look unhappy after seeing their gifts? Huang Su probed, Yinin, don't you like the gifts from uncles? Yinin has these things. Gu Yin replied with a low mood. What? Huang Su and the others were dumbfounded as they looked at each other in dismay. For a moment, they didn't know what to say. They remembered that Gu Yin was Tan Xiu's apprentice. With Tan Xiu's love for his little apprentice, they were afraid that these things had already been provided for her. Then, what should they give? Wang Zidong hesitated for a moment. Then, he quickly grabbed a checkbook from the inside pocket of his coat and wrote 2 million on it. Then, he handed it to Gu Yin and said with a smile, Yinin. These uncles haven't married yet, nor do they have children of their own. So, I don't know what children like. How about this? Take this money and buy whatever you like. Along with these gifts, it's uncle's gift to you. Huang Su and Fei Shan seemed to be inspired as they also took out their checkbooks and wrote 2 million and handed it to Gu Yin. Gu Yin turned to look at Tan Xiu, who was sitting on the sofa at the side, with an inquiring look in her eyes. Tan Xiu lightly smiled and said, these uncles of yours are all local tycoons. Since they are giving you pocket money, then just accept it. However, you must give this money to your mom. After you've determined what you like, you can ask her for money to buy it. Master, Yinin wants to take the driver's license test, said Gu Yin excitedly. You're still young, so you can't take the test now. Tan Xiu couldn't help laughing. Even if I can't get the license now, I can still learn, said Gu Yin quickly. Uncle Ao has secretly taken Yinin to drive a few times. Yinin has almost learned how to drive a yacht and operate a helicopter. But I haven't practiced much. Uncle Ao told me that practice makes perfect. Yinin wants to buy a yacht and a helicopter, too. Cough, cough, cough. Tan Xiu immediately spurted out the tea in his mouth, whereas Huang Su, Fei Shan, and Wang Zidong looked at Gu Yin with tongue-tied expressions, as though they were looking at an alien. Tan Xiu wiped the corner of his mouth and forced a smile. You're still young, so it's not suitable for you to drive a helicopter now. Anyways, I'll tell your mom to order a few yachts. You can drive them when you want to go to the sea. Yeah. Thank you, Master. Gu Yin immediately shouted excitedly. Gulp, gulp, Huang Su, Fei Shan, and Wang Zidong gulped down their saliva at the same time. They were shocked by the decision of this master and disciple pair. Chapter 6:12. Huang Su, Fei Shan, and Wang Zidong did not know much about Gu Yin, but Tan Xiu did. Although this child was young, her wisdom was definitely far beyond that of her peers, and her ability was even inferior to that of an adult. As for the reason why Tan Xiu wanted to buy a yacht, it was not just for Gu Yin to play with. 9 Dragons Island was located in the middle of the sea, so it was necessary to get a few yachts. Huang Su, how are those 4 guys now? Tan Xiu recalled Tang Zhen and Director Bai's group of 4. Before leaving Blue City, he felt that it was necessary to understand the situation. Huang Su smiled and said, very tragic, very tragic. They lost their jobs, their families, and their freedom. The Regal Classical Music Academy didn't affect Li Shaoqian at all. In fact, the first and second leaders even promised to help Li Shaoqian in the future under reasonable circumstances. Tan Xiu nodded slightly. He had talked to Li Shaoqian a few days ago. Since Li Shaoqian wanted to develop in the entertainment industry, as her old classmate, he would help her as much as he could. Recently, Qin Xiaoyang and Chu Yi were preparing to set up an entertainment company. He also called Qin Xiaoyang and recommended Li Shaoqian to him. If there was a chance in the future, Li Shaoqian could study and sing at the same time. If she wanted to, she could even develop her career in film and television. The next day, Tan Xiu drove Mu Qingping and Gu Yin out of Blue City. After returning to Star City, Tan Xiu visited the magnificent Tang Corporation a few times to formulate the development plan for the company after the new year with Kang Xia and also met with many acquaintances in Blue City. In the blink of an eye, there were only 2 days left until the new year. On this cold winter day, Tan Xiu originally planned to stay at home and read books, but he was called out by Yuan Chuling. "What's the matter? That can't be done over the phone. Why did you have to call me out?" After Tan Xiu came out of the South Gate town's gate, he saw Yuan Chuling standing beside a car on the roadside. Tan Xiu immediately walked over and asked with a smile. Yuan Chuling said, "It's not me. It's my dad." Tan Xiu was puzzled. "Your father? Why would he look for me out of nowhere?" Yuan Chuling forced a smile and said, "I've guessed a little. In the past 6 months, my dad's company has been working hard to prepare for a transformation. Recently, he has taken out a large amount of funds, but the investment project has not been confirmed yet, so he wants to talk to you and ask if you have any good suggestions in terms of investment. It would be best if we could work together on some projects." Tan Xiu laughed involuntarily and said, "I'm not a businessman. Why are you talking to me about investment and business? To be honest, I'm having a headache right now." Yuan Chuling was confused. "What's your headache?" Tan Xiu waved his hand and said, "There are a few projects that can't be implemented. Forget it, since Uncle Yuan is looking for me, I will go and see him. Maybe." Suddenly, Tang Xiu's complexion slightly changed and a glint flashed in his eyes. He quickly changed the topic and asked, "That's right. If I remember correctly, Uncle Yuan's previous business has a lot of cooperation with the military. What's the direction of the products in his research institute?" "I don't know much about it, but it's all high-tech products. It should have a deep cooperation with weapons," Yuan Chuling said. Tan Xiu blinked. He immediately opened the front seat's door and said, "Let's go and see your dad." Yuan Chuling's house. Yuan Zhengxian sat in his study with a distressed expression. He quietly looked at the staff dismissal list in his hand. Since the scientific and technological achievements of the research institute had been completed, he wanted to dismiss the experts and professors of the institute. Therefore, he had drawn up the list of staff dismissal more than a month ago. But he hadn't released this list until now, and those researchers had also gone home to take a vacation, 46 people. How should I arrange them? Yuan Zhengxian rarely smoked, but at this moment, he lit a cigarette and took a few deep puffs. At the door, Zhao Jing came in with a cup of tea. Seeing Yuan Zhengshuan's distressed expression, she said with a distressed expression, "Hubby, if you can't make up your mind, then put it aside first. At worst, we'll invest some money later and let them research some things. Just consider that we're raising them." Yuan Zhengxian forced a smile and said, "It's okay to raise them for a while, but it's too difficult to raise them for a lifetime." "What's so difficult about it? Isn't it just spending money?" Zhao Jing said, "We've taken out a lot of funds. As long as we choose the right investment project, we can make a lot of money. Besides, those scientists and technicians have been with you for more than a decade and have made a lot of money for us. It's too heartless to dismiss them now." Yuan Zhengxian said helplessly, "I also know that it's heartless. That's why I haven't made up my mind yet. The most important thing now is the transformation of our business, which makes me have no goal." Originally, Tang Yunda had several projects, but he had plenty of funds and didn't need partners at all. Zhao Jing said, "Didn't you tell your son to look for Tan Xiu? Maybe he has some good investment projects. That child is really amazing. He's so young, yet he's able to create such a big business. He'll definitely dabble in many fields in the future. Maybe we can catch the express train to make money by relying on our son's relationship with him. Yuan Jingxian faintly sighed and said, if only I had the intention to transform my business 2 years ago. If I could invest in the magnificent Tang Corporation when it was just established, I wouldn't have to do anything every day, yet I'd still be rolling in money. How could I be at a loss like now? Zhao Jing nodded and said, at that time, who knew that the magnificent Tang Corporation was created by Tan Xiu? Forget it. Don't think about it. It's the new year, so let's think about something happy. Let's wait for the new year and then think about what to do. I believe that there's no business we can't invest in if we have money. Alright. Let's talk about it after we meet Tan Xiu. Yuan Jingxian nodded without a word. Half an hour later, Tang Xiu was already sitting in front of Yuan Jingxian. Looking at Yuan Jingshuan's listless appearance, Tang Xiu said with a smile, Uncle Yuan, if you have something to say, just say it. We're not outsiders. Tan Xiu, I won't beat around the bush since you've said so, said Yuan Jingxian. This time, I asked Ling to call you here because I want to ask you if you have any good investment projects. I've told you before that I want to switch to other businesses, so that those foreign forces can't always keep their eyes on me. How's your capital, Uncle Yuan? Asked Tan Xiu. The military hasn't given me the final payment for the latest product. According to the agreement, it'll be in my account in April, said Yuan Jingxian. Altogether, it should be 5 to 6 billion. Tan Xiu asked again, Uncle Yuan, are the researchers in your research institute good at scientific and technological research? Let me give you an example. If I have an idea and a specific idea about a certain object, can they research it according to my idea? The specific research direction needs to be clear, or you can give me an example, said Yuan Jingxian. A magnetic levitation frisbee, said Tan Xiu. What's that? Yuan Jingxian was confused. It's a means of transportation, said Tan Xiu. For example, if a person stands on a magnetic levitation frisbee, they can control it to fly freely. Moreover, it can ensure that the person won't fall during the flight. Let me put it this way. It's a bit like the current sensor car, but the sensor car runs on the ground, while the magnetic levitation frisbee flies in the sky. Yuan Jingxian looked at Tan Xiu with a strange expression. He shook his head and forced a smile. Your idea is really whimsical. If such a thing really appears in the world, it will definitely cause a huge sensation. The most important thing is that if anyone can really research this thing, I'm afraid that all the forces in the world will have their eyes on this thing. Even if they have to resort to unscrupulous means, they should be able to snatch it. Why? Tan Xiu was confused. Technology equals power. If the magnetic levitation frisbee is used in military weapons, or based on the core technology of the magnetic levitation frisbee, it will be very easy to develop other weapons. At that time, how effective do you think the result of the research and development will be? Tan Xiu fell into silence. He had been thinking about how to make money with the magnetic levitation frisbee, but he had neglected this situation. Now that Yuan Jingxian reminded him, he immediately became vigilant. Yuan Jingxian sighed. Furthermore, even if the magnetic levitation frisbee is developed and sold well like some high-end products, what about the safety factor? You can guarantee that the magnetic levitation frisbee can carry people in the sky, but have you ever thought about it? There are no landmarks in the sky. How terrifying would it be if they collided with each other? I told you about the safety issue. It can be solved. Tan Xiu shook his head. Yuan Jingxian was silent for a moment. Then, he seriously said, 2 guarantees. If these 2 guarantees can be achieved, we can give it a try. Tang Xiu's expression shifted and he asked, which 2 guarantees? The possibility of the technology being stolen, and the importance of armed protection, said Yuan Jingxian. I can't guarantee if I have to be the enemy of all the major forces in the world now, said Tan Xiu. I can't guarantee the possibility of the technology being stolen. But what? Asked Yuan Jingxian. Give me 2 or 3 years. I firmly believe that I can achieve these 2 points, said Tan Xiu with all seriousness. Yuan Jingxian looked at Tan Xiu as though he was looking at a monster. He shook his head and said, "Don't joke with me. You've indeed made some achievements now, but you don't understand the horror of those huge forces in the world. Forget it. Let's talk about this later. Uncle Yuan, since you're going to change your business, what about the researchers in your original research institute?" asked Tan Xiu suddenly. "Are you going to disband them?" Yuan Jingxian forced a smile and said, "I also have a headache. I want to disband the team, but they have been with me for more than a decade. I can't make up my mind. Alas, I'll just take it one step at a time. I'll just keep them for the time being." Tan Xiu's eyes lit up and he said with a smile, "Uncle Yuan, how about we make a deal? I want to try and find some powerful researchers to help me research the magnetic levitation frisbee. I'll pay you a sum of money and you'll transfer them to me. How about it? Do you really want to do it?" asked Yuan Jingxian, surprised. "I'll give it a try," Tang Xiu said with a smile. Chapter 613. Yuan Jingxian now regarded the researchers in the research institute as a hot potato. He would feel uneasy if he were to abandon them. But if he didn't abandon them, it would be useless in the future. It was precisely in this dilemma that Tan Xiu's proposal made Yuan Jingxian very satisfied. He didn't mention the price, but put forward a condition instead. "Please say it, Uncle Yuan." Tan Xiu cautiously looked at Yuan Jingxian. He also knew that there was no such thing as a free lunch in the world. Since Yuan Jingxian didn't want to sell the researchers to him, then his condition would probably not be easy to fulfill. "Sure enough. You have the ability to turn stone into gold, Tan Xiu," said Yuan Jingxian with a smile. "Your vision and ability are incomparable to ordinary people. I need a project, and I want to cooperate with you in some fields. As long as you let me invest the money I have, I'll give you my research institute for free, and I'll also introduce those researchers to you." Tan Xiu slightly furrowed his brows. If he had a good project, he would have invested the money long ago. Why would he wait until now? The difficult problem thrown by Yuan Jingxian left him at a loss as to how to deal with it for a while. Yuan Jingxian could see Tan Xiu's dilemma, so he lightly smiled and said, "I know it's unrealistic to ask you to give me a project now. I can give you the lab and those researchers in advance. You just need to give me a promise." Tan Xiu thought for a moment and then said, "I can't guarantee 100%. But if I have any business plan and come across a good project in the future, Uncle Yuan will be my first choice as long as I need to cooperate with others." Yuan Jingxian clapped and said with a satisfied smile, "Then it's settled. The experts and professors of the Research Institute have gone home for the new year and will come back to work after the new year. Let's set a date and I'll take you there myself." "All right." Tan Xiu nodded with a smile. In fact, he didn't have the confidence to study the magnetic levitation flying disc. After all, he didn't know much about the research of science and technology. The reason why he wanted to study it was that he had seen it before. He knew how big of a sensation it would cause once it was developed and how terrifying the profits would be. Ring, 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 Tan Xiu's mobile suddenly rang. Tan Xiu picked up his mobile and looked at the caller ID. He immediately connected the call and said, "Sis Xiaowan, are you back to Star City?" Chen Xiaowan's voice sounded, "Yes, he's back." "Where are you now? Is it convenient for you to come out and meet me?" Tan Xiu smiled and said, "I still have something to do now. I'll treat you to lunch." "Sure." Chen Xiaowan readily agreed. After hanging up the phone, Tan Xiu looked at Yuan Jingxian and said, "Uncle Yuan, remember to call me when those researchers start working after the new year. I'll be in Star City before the 15th of the first lunar month." Yuan Jingxian smiled. "No problem." Subsequently, Tan Xiu got up to leave. Although Yuan Zhengxian and Zhao Jing wanted to ask Tan Xiu to stay for a meal, Tan Xiu declined because he had an appointment with Qin Shaowan. Yuan Chuling didn't leave with him. He just came back from Shanghai and planned to stay at home to accompany his parents for the next few days. After experiencing so many things, Yuan Chuling was obviously much more mature than before, which made Yuan Zhengxian and Zhao Jing feel gratified. However, on the way to see Qin Shaowan, Tan Xiu received a call from Su Ben and learned about a major event. Therefore, he immediately contacted Qin Shaowan and told her that he had encountered an urgent matter and had to go back to his hometown. Therefore, after the call, he directly turned the steering wheel and rushed to his hometown. Su Ben called him and said that there had been several murders in the Su family village and several nearby villages in recent days. According to the investigation of the local public security department, they found that the culprit of these murders was not humans, but very terrifying beasts. This situation reminded Tan Xiu of what Su Ben had said when he was in the back mountain of the Su family village. He said that there was a leopard bigger than a bull in the back mountain. Tan Xiu's initial judgment was that the leopard should be a fierce beast. Unfortunately, he didn't find the leopard at that time, so he couldn't get rid of it. At the Su family village in Songlu town. The new year was approaching. At this time in the past, the whole village was full of jubilant scenes. Children wore washed clothes and ran around, setting off firecrackers, pasting couplets, and playing around. The adults were preparing for the New Year's goods, or gathering in groups of 3 or 5 to chat. However, when Tan Xiu drove into the village, only a few men came back from the outside. They were holding shovels and harpoons in their hands with solemn expressions on their faces. Creak, the car stopped beside them. Tan Xiu faced them and asked with concern, "What's the situation now? How many people in our Su family village have been killed?" Among the men, one of them had received a favor from Tan Xiu. He was Su Xiangjian, who was beaten and sent to the Shanghai hospital. Upon hearing Tan Xiu's inquiry, he squeezed out a bitter smile and said, "2. Changwen and Gangzi are dead. Alas, that goddamn beast. Hundreds of people from our villages went into the mountain together, but we couldn't find its shadow. I really want to kill it." Tan Xiu quickly asked, "What about the other villages? How many people were killed or injured?" Su Xiangjian said, "There are 2 in our village and 4 in the other villages. 6 have died and a few are injured. Wang Haiyang from Shaowang village is badly injured. I'm afraid he won't live past the end of the year." Tan Xiu asked again, "Where was everyone attacked by the beast?" Su Xiangjian pointed to the north and said bitterly, "Several people in our village were in the orchard at the foot of the mountain. They were pruning the apple trees. Who would have thought that they would be attacked by the beast? The people in the other villages were also killed near the back of the mountain. Those who survived said that it was that leopard the size of a bull." Tan Xiu nodded silently. He took out cigarettes from his pocket and distributed them. Then he talked with them for a while and drove to the gate of his grandmother's house. Tan Xiu. Su Ben and Su Quan, who had been waiting for a long time, quickly greeted him. After getting off the car, Tan Xiu said, "I just entered the village and met Uncle Xiangjian and learned about the situation from them. Brother Ben, Su Quan, wait for me outside for a while. I'll go inside and greet Grandma, and then you'll go with me to the back of the mountain." "You can't go, Tan Xiu," said Su Ben quickly. Tan Xiu shot him a deep look and seriously said, "Brother Ben, there's something you may not know. I've been practicing martial arts with an expert in recent years, and my martial arts foundation is very deep. Even 8 or 10 men won't be my match. Besides, with you following us, we can kill that leopard as long as we can find it. Listen to my advice, Tan Xiu." Su Ben shook his head and said, "That leopard is not an ordinary beast. Many people are now saying that the leopard has become a spirit. Let alone the 3 of us, even if 30 people go together, I'm afraid it'll be very difficult to come out of the back of the mountain alive if we don't have any weapons." Tan Xiu was silent for a moment and then said, "Wait for me first, I'll tell you later." After having said that, Tan Xiu strode into the courtyard and saw Su Xiangfei rubbing a javelin. Tan Xiu was slightly surprised and immediately asked, "When did you come back?" "I've been back for more than a week," said Su Xiangfei with a smile. "Is Grandma inside?" Tan Xiu nodded and asked. "She's inside and slept after lunch," answered Su Xiangfei. "Grandma has been in good health recently, but she's a bit sad because of the death in our village and has been in a bad mood these days." Tan Xiu nodded without a word and said, "Since she's asleep, then I'll go out to handle something first." "I heard your conversation from inside," said Su Xiangfei quickly. "I'll go with you." Tan Xiu shook his head and said, "Brother Kai, Su Quan, and I are enough. Don't worry, it'll be fine. One more person means one more force." Su Xiangfei shook his head. "I must go with you, Tan Xiu." Tan Xiu hesitated for a moment. Looking at his firm expression, he immediately nodded and said, "Let's go then." After returning to the outside, Tan Xiu took out a pistol from his pocket and showed it to them. Then, he quickly put it away and said in a low voice, "This gun is for self-defense. When we get to the back of the mountain, once we find that leopard, I'll shoot it if we can't kill it with force." "Tan Xiu, how come you have a gun?" asked Su Quan in shock. This pistol was actually obtained by Tan Xiu after he killed the Yao family's people. He also had a lot of pistols in his interspatial ring, including submachine guns and sniper rifles. However, he couldn't tell them about it, so he made up a lie, "I'm a boss with a net worth of billions now. If someone has evil thoughts and wants to murder me for money, I'll be in danger if I don't have something to defend myself with. Don't worry, I won't use this gun to do anything illegal. It's just for self-defense." Su Ben and Su Quan suddenly understood. Both of them were employees of the magnificent Tang Corp, and Su Ben was now the vice-captain of the security team of the company's winery. They naturally knew that the security team of the magnificent Tang Corp also had guns. Moreover, they had applied for legal guns from the government. Su Xiangfei didn't know about this situation, but after realizing Tan Xiu's current status, he understood Tan Xiu's words. 10 minutes later, Tan Xiu drove the trio to the back of the mountain. After parking the car at the foot of the mountain, they hurried along the mountain path. They were very vigilant. Aside from Tan Xiu carrying a pistol, Su Ben and Su Quan were holding a harpoon and a shovel respectively, while Su Xiangfei was holding his javelin. After arriving at the Golden Mountain, Tan Xiu had been releasing his spiritual sense. Although his current cultivation was very high, he didn't know the strength of the leopard. Moreover, he also needed to ensure the safety of the 3 people following him. "Give me the directions. I used to come to the back of the mountain when I was a child, but if I go too deep, my memory of many places will be blurred." Tan Xiu told them the real purpose of bringing the trio here. "Let's search the periphery first," said Su Ben. "If we can't find it, we'll go deeper. There are many dangerous places in the valley after crossing this mountain. I'm familiar with those places, so just follow me." Chapter 6:14. The mountain range to the north of the Su family village was one of the branches of the Yuzhou mountain range. It was only a few kilometers wide, but it was composed of countless large and small hills. In the summer, the foliage here was luxuriant and the ancient trees towered to the sky. In the cold winter, this place looked desolate. When Tan Xiu was a child, he followed the adults to the back of the mountain many times, but the number of times he entered the depths of the mountain range was very few. Only a lot of old hunters who made a living by hunting would go deep inside. Su Ben's grandfather used to be an old hunter. Later, when it came to Su Ben's father's generation, he didn't rely on hunting to make a living. Strange peaks and strange rocks were steep and precipitous. The 4 of them searched for several hours in the periphery, but they couldn't find any trace of the leopard fierce beast. Therefore, they climbed over the hill and entered a long valley inside. Tan Xiu only shrunk the range of his spiritual sense to a radius of 50 meters in order to save the effect of his spiritual sense. "Tan Xiu, we'll have to jump over that mountain stream later. Remember, you must jump with all your strength, else you'll be smashed to pieces once you fall. Halfway up the mountain, the four of them stopped. Su Ben pointed to the mountain stream gap 7 or 8 meters away in front of them. Don't worry, Tan Xiu said. The four of them jumped over the 2 or 3 meters wide mountain stream gap with great caution. They rested for 10 minutes and then continued to walk inside. The deeper they went, the lower the terrain became. Because this side belonged to the back of the mountain, there was still some snow that had not melted, making it very difficult to walk on the mountain road. Su Ben looked at the time on his mobile phone. It was 4:30 in the afternoon, so he stopped and seriously said, "We can only stop here today. The sky will be dark in an hour at most. If we go back too late, I'm afraid we'll encounter danger." Tan Xiu took out his mobile phone and found that there was no signal, so he said, "Let's spend the night in the mountain tonight. We'll find a hidden place to rest after we go inside. Wild beasts come and go frequently at night. We'll have a better chance to find the leopard if we stay in the mountain." This, Su Ben and Su Quan looked at each other in dismay and hesitated. Su Xiangfei calmly said, "Even if we rush back now, we won't be able to return to the foot of the mountain before it gets completely dark. Let's spend the night here." Tan Xiu looked at him with satisfaction and said, "Don't worry. Who would dare to come to Liangshan without a few tricks? Since I brought you into the mountain, I can guarantee your safety. That leopard was too hateful. If it couldn't be eradicated soon, the villagers in the nearby villages wouldn't be in the mood to celebrate the new year. If one day it appears outside again, who knows how many more people will die." "All right." Su Ben and Su Quan finally nodded. Half an hour later, the four of them finally arrived at the bottom of the valley. Looking at the sparkling lake in front of them, Su Ben pointed to the rocks at the foot of the mountain and said, "There's a cave behind here. It's the place where I stayed temporarily when I went hunting with my grandfather. Let's spend the night here." Su Quan said with a smile, "I also came here with your grandfather. Back then, the old man brought xiaojiu and roasted chicken. That time was my first time drinking. It's a pity that we came here in a hurry. Had I known that we would spend the night here, I would have brought some wine and meat." A smile flashed in Tan Xiu's eyes. He put his hand into his pocket and took out a bottle of liquor from his interspatial ring to conceal it. Then, he said with a smile, "I've already prepared it before coming here." "You actually have liquor in your pocket?" Su Quan was surprised. "I say, Tan Xiu, you've long made up your mind to spend the night here, haven't you? That's not right. How come your clothes are so big? You can even fit a bottle of liquor." "A bottle of liquor isn't big," Tan Xiu said with a faint smile. "My pocket can just fit it. All right, you guys go to the cave behind the rocks first. I'll take a stroll in the vicinity and bring back some game for you." "I'll go with you, Tan Xiu," said Su Ben quickly. Tan Xiu shook his head and said with a smile, "No need. Don't worry, Brother Ben. I'm confident in my own strength. I'm afraid I'll have to take care of you if you come with me." Su Ben didn't know Tan Xiu's strength, but he found one thing. After entering the mountain at noon today, Tan Xiu didn't show the slightest trace of exhaustion until now. He didn't even sweat a drop, which made him secretly surprised. It must be noted that he had been working in the security team of the magnificent Tang Corp for the past 6 months and had undergone a lot of physical training every day. He thought that his physical fitness was very good, but he secretly compared it with Tan Xiu and found that his body was actually inferior to Tan Xiu's. "Tan Xiu, you've been smart and cautious since you were a child, so you must pay attention to your safety," said Su Ben in a low voice. Tan Xiu patted his shoulder and casually picked a direction and walked toward the withered trees. After getting out of the sight of Su Ben and the other two, Tan Xiu's movements suddenly sped up. He shuttled back and forth in the mountainous woods like floating clouds and flowing water. His spiritual sense also began to spread out in a wide range. In just 10 minutes, he had observed the area within a radius of 7 to 8 kilometers. He found that there was no trace of the leopard fierce beast except for some ordinary wild beasts. 2 pheasants and a hare. "That should be enough for the 4 of us to eat," right? Tan Xiu casually put a precious herb into his interspatial ring. Then, he took the prey he caught and rushed toward the rocks not far from the lakeside with satisfaction. Huh! Suddenly, Tang Xiu's expression moved as he took a detour to return. A bit of surprise was revealed in his eyes. He suddenly found that the concentration of heaven and earth's spiritual energy in the surroundings was a bit stronger. Moreover, the concentration of the spiritual energy was getting thicker along with his footsteps. After walking for nearly a kilometer, the concentration of spiritual energy was already 2 or 3 times higher than other places. Something's wrong. Tan Xiu quickly put the pheasants and the hare into his interspatial ring. After holding the blood drinker dagger in his hand, he cautiously observed the surroundings. At the same time, he judged the concentration of spiritual energy and moved toward the place with the highest concentration. He found that he was slowly deviating from the direction of his return and was approaching another mountain in the valley. 10 minutes later, Tan Xiu stopped in front of a 7 to 8 meter high stone forest. Although there were a lot of trees growing in the stone forest, because of the lack of dead branches, his visibility was a bit further. However, under the shroud of his spiritual sense, he had already discovered the uniqueness of the stone forest. A natural stone array. I really didn't expect there to be a natural stone array here. It's not offensive, so it should be a psychedelic array. Tan Xiu observed for 2 minutes before he resolutely stepped into the stone forest. According to his judgment, he easily reached the central position of the stone forest. At this time, the concentration of spiritual energy here was more than 10 times that of other places. My luck is good, but unfortunately, Tan Xiu looked at the mouth of the spring in front of him that was emitting white smoke with a wry smile on his face. The spirit spring was a spring formed by the spirit vein and contained a huge amount of spiritual power of the earth vein. If a cultivator could cultivate here, he would definitely get twice the result with half the effort. If he could soak in the spirit spring to cultivate, his cultivation speed would definitely be more than 100 times faster than usual. He felt that it was a pity that this spirit spring was not of much help to him. What he absorbed was star power, and the spiritual power of the earth vein could only play a supporting role for him. Suddenly, a thought emerged in his mind. When he thought of Su Ben and Su Quan, he immediately made up his mind to impart cultivation techniques to them. Since he had decided to cultivate talents, and they were close to him, he had a good understanding of their character and character. If he could cultivate them in the future, he would have 2 more arms to help him. However, Su Xiangfei was also with them. Tan Xiu was a bit hesitant. Although Su Xiangfei's character had changed, and he had matured a lot after experiencing the upheaval in his family, he was also a lot more stable, and even recognized his familial love, but after all, he and Su Xiangfei, Tan Xiu pondered for a few minutes and decided to teach Su Xiangfei cultivation techniques. Even if he and Su Xiangfei had a deep grudge, he believed that Su Xiangfei was also a promising talent. He had indeed made Su Xiangfei lose a lot, but as long as he was strong enough and could give him more, he believed that Su Xiangfei would no longer have any evil thoughts towards him. After making up his mind, Tan Xiu immediately left the stone forest and quickly came to the cave where Su Ben and the other 2 were hiding. He saw the 3 people squatting at the entrance of the cave and looking around. Fill your stomach first, I will give you a big opportunity later. Tan Xiu threw 2 pheasants and a hare in front of the 3 people and said with a smile. When the 3 people saw the pheasants and hare, they immediately looked surprised. They didn't expect that Tan Xiu could really hunt prey in the middle of the night. However, the 3 people were a bit confused about Tan Xiu's words. What kind of opportunity are you going to give us, Tan Xiu? Asked Su Quan. Let's get something to eat first, said Tan Xiu. After saying that, he took out salt and seasonings from his pocket. These things were stored in his interspatial ring. On the way back, he had packed some of them in a small bottle, so it didn't look out of place. He used dry firewood to make a fire. Su Ben quickly used the knife he brought to kill the pheasant and the hare, and then cleaned them by the lake. After putting them on the fire, he barbecued them. Almost all the children from the mountain knew how to barbecue game. Soon, 2 yellow roasted pheasants and a yellow roasted hare were roasted. Smells good. It's a pity that the wine is not enough. The 4 people only drank a bit more than 1 liter of wine. But eating the roasted pheasant and hare made the 4 people's mouths drip with oil, and their bodies were warm. After eating, Su Quan asked again, Tan Xiu, you don't need to keep us guessing now, do you? Tell us, what big opportunity are you going to give us? Tan Xiu shot a deep look at the 3 people and asked, before I tell you, I want to ask you a question. Are you willing to sell your lives to me? We make money from you. We eat and drink with you, so naturally, we'll give our lives to you, said Su Ben without hesitation. Su Quan hesitated for a moment before he nodded and said, we grew up together with bare butts, and we're related to each other. Naturally, we're willing to give our lives to you. Tan Xiu, Big Brother Ben should have the same idea as me. We're all relatives and brothers. As long as you need us, just say the word. Tan Xiu nodded without a word and looked at Su Xiangfei. Chapter 6:15. Su Xiangfei fell into silence. He didn't follow Tan Xiu to work but went out to work alone. Although it was very difficult to make a living outside, he found a job to support himself and save some money. He actually had complicated feelings toward Tan Xiu. He despised Tan Xiu and was hostile toward Tan Xiu at first. Even after the upheaval in his family, he was full of hatred toward Tan Xiu. But ever since he came to his senses, the hatred and hostility he had toward Tan Xiu had disappeared despite the pain and regret he felt. He was willing to treat Tan Xiu as his family, but he couldn't do it for Tan Xiu at the moment. If there were outsiders who bullied Tan Xiu, he, as Tan Xiu's cousin, naturally had the obligation to stand up and face it together with him. Tan Xiu looked at Su Xiangfei. Although he had guessed that such a situation would happen, he was still a bit disappointed. However, he still had a way out. He said in a deep voice, it's fine if you can't do it now, Su Xiangfei. But if I can give you something, will you make a decision? What is it? Asked Su Xiangfei with slightly furrowed brows. I can give you money if you want it. I can give you power if you want it. I can do everything I can to help you find women if you want it, said Tan Xiu solemnly. Even if you want strength, I can bestow it to you. If you want immortality, I can bestow it to you. Immortality? Su Xiangfei looked at Tan Xiu with a strange expression and couldn't help laughing. Don't joke with me. Tan Xiu snorted coldly. Under Su Xiangfei's watchful eyes, his feet slowly floated up. When he floated 2 to 3 meters above the ground, he slowly spread his arms and the surrounding stones weighing tens of kilograms and even hundreds of kilograms floated up. In just a few seconds, hundreds of stones floated around Tan Xiu. Did I see a ghost? Su Quan retreated a few steps. After stabilizing his body, he desperately rubbed his eyes and muttered with a face full of shock. Su Ben's eyes widened in disbelief. His heartbeat sped up, and his blood flowed faster. He was frightened by the strange scene in front of him. Su Xiangfei was stunned. He looked at Tan Xiu as if he had seen a ghost. He looked at the stones floating around Tan Xiu. He had imagined countless times that he would one day become a Superman, able to fly in the sky, burrow into the ground, and move mountains and seas. He had even imagined himself to be the main character in the scene before him. But, when his fantasy became reality, the impact was too great for him, so great that he was terrified. Tan Xiu looked down at Su Xiangfei and said in a deep voice, I've only shown a very small part of my abilities. I was afraid that you wouldn't be able to bear it, so I just used a little trick. If you're willing to sell your lives to me and become my most trusted people in this life, I can give you abilities that are countless times more powerful than this. At that time, let alone standing in the air and controlling some stones, you can even stand in the vast universe and control a planet. It'll be a piece of cake for you. Su Xiangfei opened his mouth, but he swallowed the words that were about to come out of his throat. Tan Xiu, are you a celestial being? Su Quan suddenly shouted. Tan Xiu burst into laughter upon hearing it. Celestial being. Perhaps one day in the future, all the gods and Buddhas in the heavens will not be my match. You're not wrong to call me that. Su Quan's expression rapidly changed. A look of ecstasy burst out of his eyes as he shouted, Tang Xiu, my life is yours from now on. As long as you can make me as powerful as you. Su Ben didn't speak, but he clenched his fists and a firm look burst from his eyes. Su Xiangfei's heart was thumping. With a yearning look on his face, he loudly said, Tan Xiu, I want my parents to celebrate the new year with us this year. If you can do it, Su Xiangfei, am willing to sell my life to you. I'll do whatever you want me to do. No problem. Tan Xiu nodded and said, I guarantee that your parents will return to the Su family village before the new year. Tan Xiu waved his arm and hundreds of stones smashed toward the lake 100 meters away. Along with the sound of the stones falling into the water, Tan Xiu's feet stepped on the ground again and said, I'll teach you a cultivation technique tonight and help you step into the threshold of cultivation. Shortly after, Tan Xiu took the three of them to the outside of the stone forest and said in a deep voice, remember, this stone forest is strange. Ordinary people will definitely get lost inside if they inadvertently break into it. This is, in fact, a naturally formed stone array with a hallucinatory effect. You must clearly look at the place where I step and carefully follow me step by step. What is a stone array? Asked Su Quan curiously. Is it like the Heavenly Gate array in the TV series, The Generals of the Yang Family? Tan Xiu thought for a moment and said, you can understand it that way. If ordinary people rashly break into this stone array, they will get lost inside. It's just like walking in a maze. I'm afraid they won't be able to come out again in their lifetime. Do you know about arrays, Tan Xiu? Asked Su Quan in shock. I know a bit, said Tan Xiu with a faint smile. Suddenly, not only Su Quan, but even Su Ben and Su Xiangfei looked at Tan Xiu with worship in their eyes. They didn't know how Tan Xiu became so powerful, but the means Tan Xiu had shown before had convinced them. Soon after, the four of them came to the vicinity of the stone forest spirit spring. Tan Xiu squatted down beside the spirit spring. His fingers gently stroked the spirit spring water that was emitting white smoke, feeling the spiritual force rushing into his body. He faintly smiled, got up and turned to look at the other three, saying, I think you all know the meaning of washing the marrow and meridians. This is a spirit spring, also known as the Earth Vein Dragon Spring. If a cultivator were to cultivate here, they would get twice the result with half the effort. If an ordinary person were to cultivate here, it would also have an excellent effect on their body. At least, they wouldn't catch a cold or have a fever for several years. However, if an ordinary person were to soak in this spirit spring, they would die without a doubt. As for you all, you will soak in here tonight to wash your marrow and meridians, establishing your cultivation foundation. We haven't started cultivating yet, Tan Xiu. Didn't you say that ordinary people will die inside? Asked Su Quan in horror. Then why are you still? The ones who will die are those who don't know how to cultivate, said Tan Xiu with a faint smile. I'll teach you the cultivation technique before letting you enter. Subsequently, Tan Xiu spent more than 2 hours explaining the human body's meridians and acupoints to the three, forcing them to memorize all the meridians and acupoints he explained. Afterward, Tan Xiu taught the three an ordinary cultivation technique in the immortal world. Washing the marrow and meridians will be very painful at first, and it's very difficult for people without great perseverance to bear it. But if you want to become a superior person in the future and have the ability to fly in the sky and dive into the earth, you must endure it no matter how painful it is, said Tan Xiu seriously. The three nodded heavily. Tan Xiu took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, take off all your clothes and enter the spirit spring. Remember, follow the cultivation technique I just taught you and silently feel it according to the cultivation route. Try to control it. If anyone can't bear it, tell me immediately. Su Ben directly took off his clothes and was the first to jump into the spirit spring. Along with an extremely comfortable moan, Su Quan and Su Xiangfei also jumped into the spirit spring. The mouth of the spirit spring was not big. After the three jumped in, they had occupied 2/3 of the area inside. "It's amazing. It actually made us float," said Su Quan in shock. Tan Xiu faintly smiled. The spiritual force of the earth vein was in a liquid state, and its floating strength was very high. Let alone humans, it could even make a boulder weighing 1,000 pounds float. Concentrate your mind and meditate according to the cultivation route. The three of them began to silently feel the qi in their meridians according to Tan Xiu's instruction. In just a few seconds, they were in an extremely comfortable state. They could even feel the sweat pores all over their bodies stretching out and countless warm air currents gushing into their bodies. Along with the feeling of itchiness appearing in their bodies, a trace of oppressive feeling was immediately followed by a faint pain and then an intense pain. It was so painful that it was difficult to breathe. Gradually, they felt as if their bodies were being torn apart by countless forces. That heart-wrenching pain made them scream out in pain. Endure it and meditate according to the cultivation route. Remember, this is a test of your willpower. It will bring you endless benefits in the future. Concentrate, concentrate. Tan Xiu stood on the side and shouted in a deep voice. Time passed. The screams continued to rise and fall. The bodies of the three people kept spasming in the spirit spring. Their veins bulged and their skin turned blood red. Like a newborn mouse, the blood vessels in their body could be seen clearly. Under this painful torture, the physique of the three people was rapidly strengthening. I feel it. Su Quan suddenly opened his eyes and shouted in ecstasy. Tan Xiu angrily shouted, "Shut up, continue to feel and try to control it." Hearing this, Su Quan was suddenly shocked and then calmed down again. The night receded and the day came. The three people were still soaking in the spirit spring. They had already adapted to the pain. Even if they wanted to jump out, in order to become as powerful as Tan Xiu said, they still persisted. Whoosh! A chaotic force was released by Tan Xiu and wrapped around the bodies of the three people. Tan Xiu pulled the three out of the spirit spring and then hit their sleeping acupoints. After a night of painful torture, a night of mental consumption, the three people had reached their limit. Tan Xiu needed to let them rest and restore their mental strength. At noon, Tan Xiu woke the three people up and threw them into the spirit spring again. When night fell, he dragged the three of them out again. Then he let them rest and threw them into the spirit spring again. As time passed, the four people did not know that because of their disappearance, the Su family village had been in chaos. Even the people from the public security department arrived and organized a large number of people to enter the mountain range. At this time, it was already the night of New Year's Eve. Chapter 6:16. At the center of the stone forest, Tan Xiu sat cross-legged on the edge of the spirit spring, silently watching Su Xiangfei inside the spring. Su Ben and Su Quan had finished their cultivation and were standing quietly at the side after putting on their clothes. After 2 days of devastating cultivation, they could feel the qi flow inside their bodies and could even control it. Hua! Water splashed everywhere as a naked Su Xiangfei jumped out of the spring. His eyes flashed with excitement as he shouted, I can control the qi flow inside my body, Tan Xiu. I can also control it according to the cultivation route and circulate it 3 times in my meridians. How thick is the qi flow inside your body? Asked Tan Xiu. Su Xiangfei pondered for a moment and answered, it's about the size of a pin. Tan Xiu looked at Su Ben and Su Quan and asked, what about you two? The qi flow I can control is stronger than Xiangfei's. It's about the size of a match, said Su Quan happily. Su Ben scratched the back of his head and then raised his hand. He stretched out his little finger and said, it's about half the size of my little finger. It's a bit thicker than disposable chopsticks. But its length is very short, only a few centimeters. What? Su Quan and Su Xiangfei were dumbfounded, especially Su Xiangfei. His mouth fiercely twitched a few times and an embarrassed look appeared on his face. He had heard from Tan Xiu that people's physiques were divided into 3, 6, and 9 grades. Those with good physiques could cultivate fast, while those with poor physiques could cultivate very slowly. Now it seemed that he was inferior to Su Quan and had a huge gap with Su Ben. Tan Xiu nodded and smilingly said, "Not bad. You can feel the qi flow in your meridians and can control it according to the cultivation route. It shows that you have officially embarked on the path of cultivation. Furthermore, after 2 days of cultivation, your physical strength has advanced by leaps and bounds. It's at least several times stronger than before. Now try to move a stone and test your strength." "I'll go first," said Su Ben. Then, his gaze fell on a rock that weighed at least 50 kilograms. In the past, he could also lift a rock that weighed 50 kilograms, but it was very strenuous. As he wrapped his arms around the rock, he exerted his strength and easily lifted the rock. In fact, due to the speed at which he lifted his arms, he almost threw the rock that weighed 100 kilograms into the sky. "How can it be so light?" Su Ben murmured in disbelief. Tan Xiu laughed and said, "If you could move a stone weighing 100 jin in the past, then you should try to move a stone weighing 300 or 400 jin now." Su Ben was surprised. 300 to 400 pounds? "Can I move it?" Tan Xiu smiled and said, "How would you know if you don't try?" Su Ben nodded heavily. His eyes fell on a rock weighing almost 400 kilograms 7 or 8 meters away. He walked over and hugged it with both hands. Rise, he lifted the rock that weighed about 400 kilograms. He even had a vague feeling that even if the rock was heavier, he would be able to lift it. 500 jin. He judged that he could move a stone weighing 500 kilograms. If he exerted his strength, he could also throw a stone weighing 500 kilograms away. At least, he could throw it more than 10 meters away. Subsequently, Su Quan and Su Xiangfei also tried it. The two of them were pleasantly surprised to find that they could easily lift a stone weighing 200 to 300 kilograms. Although their strength was not as good as Su Ben's, it was at least several times stronger than before. Tan Xiu nodded with satisfaction. The trio's luck was so good that it made countless cultivators envious. With the assistance of the earth vein spirit spring at the beginning of their cultivation speed would definitely be like riding a rocket as it soared up. When Kang Xia and Andy first started to cultivate, Andy had spent a lot of time, while Kang Xia had spent several months to barely sense the qi and slowly try to control it. "Su Xiangfei, you better hurry up and put on your clothes. Although there are no women here, it's not elegant to walk around naked," Tan Xiu said with a smile. Su Xiangfei stared blankly for a moment. His face suddenly flushed as he dashed to the front of his clothes, grabbed them from the ground and quickly put them on. However, Tan Xiu's joke made him feel a lot more comfortable inside. The trace of ill feelings he had toward Tan Xiu also dissipated completely. Tan Xiu looked at the sky and said, "If I remember correctly, we've been here for 2 days. Tonight should be New Year's Eve. Since we're missing, I'm afraid there must be a big movement outside. Therefore, we must find that leopard tonight and get rid of it." "No problem. We can definitely kill it." "All right." The trio rubbed their fists, and there was no longer any fear in their eyes. The surge in strength gave them great courage. Although Tan Xiu wanted to warn the trio not to take it lightly, he didn't want to dampen their enthusiasm at the moment. With him here, he was confident that the leopard ominous beast wouldn't be able to kill the trio. "We must let them suffer a bit." Tan Xiu let out a faint smile. After leaving the stone forest with the trio, they quickly entered the mountain forest. Since the trio's physical strength had increased, whether it was their strength or speed, they were far more powerful than before. Hence, their speed was very fast as they constantly searched everywhere. Tan Xiu released his spiritual sense to the maximum range, allowing him to observe everything within a radius of 400 to 500 meters. More than an hour later, Tang Xiu's pace suddenly came to a halt halfway up the mountain. A smile appeared on his handsome face as he pointed to the southeast direction and said, "My luck is pretty good. I think I heard a leopard's roar. It's very close to us, only a few hundred meters away. Follow me." We'll kill it and then go home for the new year. At the Su family village. Su Lingyun stood in the courtyard with an anxious expression. Her hands holding Gu Yin's shoulders were trembling. Although Tang Yunda and Mu Qingping were worried, they didn't show it on their faces. Haven't the villagers come back yet? Zhang Shi came out of the house and asked with a worried expression. Next to Mrs. Zhang was Su Yening, whose face was full of silence. Tang Yunda shook his head and said, I just went out to inquire about it, but they haven't come back yet. Mom, how about you prepare dinner at home first, and I'll go to the back mountain to look for him. After all, today is the New Year's Eve. If we can find Xiu, we can still have a hot meal when we come back. Zhang Shi waved her hand and said, Yunda. You've just been here for a while. Take a rest first. There are so many people from our village, as well as the people from the town's police station and the county's police. I believe they can find Xiu. At this time, Chen Huiying, who lived next door, came in from the outside. After seeing Tang Yunda and Su Lingyun, she looked slightly surprised and immediately asked eagerly, How is it? Have you found him? Not yet. Let's wait and see. Zhang Shi sighed. Chen Huiying frowned and said, What's wrong with those naughty kids? What's wrong with them? Even if they want to kill that beast, they don't need to go into the mountain and take the risk. If something happens to one, I don't want to live anymore. Tang Yunda quickly comforted her, Don't worry, sister-in-law. I know very well how capable Xiu is. Let alone an ordinary beast, he won't even be afraid of a monster. Maybe they're just looking for him in the mountain. If they can't find him, I'm sure they'll come back tonight. On the outermost hilltop of the Su family village, hundreds of villagers and public security policemen were searching everywhere with flashlights and weapons. Their shouts were even louder. The County Public Security Bureau's chief, Zhao Donghe, was holding a loudspeaker in his hand, shouting the names of Tan Xiu and the others. Originally, he had returned home to paste couplets and buy New Year's items with his wife and children. However, he received a phone call and learned that the 4 young people of the Su family village seemed to have gone up the mountain to look for the beast that had killed many people today. Therefore, he hurriedly told more than a dozen policemen and people from the fire brigade to rush over. On the way to the Su family village, he originally planned to take some people to look for them. If they couldn't find them, then forget it. But who would have thought that after arriving at the Su family village and learning about the situation of the 4 people, he heard that one of the 4 was Tan Xiu. He immediately changed his mind and personally ordered that no matter how long it took, no matter how much they had to pay, they must find Tan Xiu and the others. Zhao Donghe knew very well that the reason why he could sit in the position of the County Public Security Bureau chief was entirely because of Tan Xiu. County Magistrate Hong, who competed with him for the position of the Public Security Bureau chief, was directly taken down by his superiors because of Tan Xiu. Even the Special Task Force of the Municipal Discipline Inspection Commission investigated County Magistrate Hong. As a result, County Magistrate Hong was still squatting in prison. He didn't know who the people above Tan Xiu were, but he was sure that they were definitely not in the city. Because the last time they investigated County Magistrate Hong, the investigation team set up by the city was led by someone from the imperial capital. Chief Xiao, we can't go any deeper. It's too dangerous inside. The leader of the fire brigade followed Zhao Donghe and said with a wry smile. He learned from the villagers of the Su family village that there were many wild beasts in the back mountain. The terrain was steep, and they would encounter danger if they were not careful. Zhao Donghe clenched his fists. Although he had been tossing and turning in the mountains for a day, he still gritted his teeth and said, No matter how dangerous it is, we must find the 4 young people. The villagers should be tired. Ask them if they can't bear it and go back immediately. I will personally lead the team to search deeper. The leader of the fire brigade was confused. He really couldn't understand why Zhao Donghe was so stubborn. Weren't they just 4 young people? It was normal to lose one's way in this deep mountain forest, and they might not necessarily encounter danger. Besides, so many people went into the deep mountain forest to search, and it was dark at night. Once they went deep, someone would definitely be injured. Was it worth it? Chief Xiao, we, the firefighters, must go in and search, but the people are tired enough today. In my opinion, you should take everyone back and leave some policemen to follow us. Just leave some policemen behind to follow us, the leader of the fire brigade said seriously. There's no need to persuade me. I must stay. I'm really sorry. I've been too tired recently. I didn't have any social engagements on the weekend and accidentally overslept. I'll try to make up for it at midnight today. Please support me with monthly votes and recommendation votes. Chapter 617. In the dark night, apart from the occasional beast roars coming from the surrounding mountain forest, the atmosphere was particularly gloomy. A leopard, the size of an adult bull, constantly glanced around with its green eyes while its thick legs moved as if it was looking for prey to fill its belly. You guys wait here, I'll kill it. Behind a tree tens of meters away, Tan Xiu's eyes flashed with a cold light as he spoke in a low voice. Su Ben reached out to stop Tan Xiu and eagerly said, Tan Xiu, the three of us are several times stronger than before, be it in terms of strength or speed. I believe that even if this leopard is powerful, it's impossible for it to beat the three of us at the same time. How about we give it a try? This is not an ordinary leopard, but a fierce beast with spiritual wisdom. Tan Xiu hesitated. Ordinary wild beasts are not much of a threat to cultivators, but fierce beasts are also very dangerous. According to my observation, this is not an ordinary fierce beast, at least not a low-level one. You don't have much combat experience, so even if the three of you join hands, I'm afraid you're not its match. You might even lose your life in its hands. Don't we still have you? Asked Su Ben in a low voice. Do you have the confidence to save us if we really encounter danger? Tan Xiu hesitated for a moment before he nodded and said, I have the confidence. Since you have the confidence, then we have nothing to be afraid of, said Su Ben seriously. Since we want to walk the same path as you in the future, we need actual combat experience. You've told us a lot about the cruelty and danger of the cultivation world in the past 2 days. You don't want to cultivate 3 wastes in the future, do you? Tan Xiu looked at Su Quan and Su Xiangfei. The two nodded without hesitation, and their faces were especially solemn. Sighing inwardly, he nodded and said, Since you've made up your mind, then do it. Remember, you can't have the slightest carelessness at this critical moment. Understood. The three of them clenched their weapons and nodded at the same time. Tan Xiu calmly watched the three of them stealthily sneak toward the leopard fierce beast. After a few seconds of silence, he instantly disappeared. His body was like a fallen leaf floating in the air. In just a few breaths, he had already appeared on the tree branch above the leopard fierce beast. Roar! When Su Ben and the other two were more than 10 meters away from it, the leopard was keenly aware that someone was approaching. Moreover, 3 people were running towards it from 3 different directions. Suddenly, its big eyes burst with dense killing intent, its body tensed up, and it pounced at Su Ben in an instant. Bastard! Su Ben held the harpoon in his hand and whipped it at the leopard in the whistling wind. However, the leopard's speed was too fast. In the blink of an eye, it had dodged the harpoon and jumped high to grab Su Ben's head. According to the actual combat experience of Su Ben, Su Quan, and Su Xiangfei, Su Ben's combat strength was the strongest among them. He was originally a man who could fight. After joining the magnificent Tang Corp, he had received very strict training. Whether it was using a stick to fight or close combat, he had learned it for several months. Therefore, he didn't panic in the face of the crisis at this time. The moment the harpoon struck back, his body pounced to the side and narrowly avoided the leopard's sharp claws. What a fast speed! When Su Ben stood up again, the leopard fierce beast had already pounced in front of him. Even though he thought that he had become very strong, he was still frightened by the leopard fierce beast's fierceness. Unable to launch an attack, he rolled on the ground again and then pounced towards Su Quan's direction by relying on the inertia. Watch out! Su Quan was a bit scared. Seeing that the leopard fierce beast had caught up with Su Ben again, his heart instantly jumped to his throat. He waved the shovel and shouted loudly. Rip! Su Ben's heart pounded wildly. He dodged to the side, but his left arm was still torn by the leopard fierce beast's sharp claws, leaving a bloody gash. It was also Su Quan who arrived in time and fiercely waved the shovel, forcing the leopard fierce beast to retreat. Big Brother Ben, are you all right? Su Quan stood in front of Su Ben and anxiously called out. Su Ben jumped up from the ground and quickly stood side by side with Su Quan to face the leopard fierce beast. Then, he calmly said, I'm fine. I'm just a bit injured. You two be careful. This guy's speed is too fast. I can barely avoid it once or twice, but I can't do it anymore. You two are not as fast as me, so you must be more cautious. Understood. Got it. Su Quan and Su Xiangfei had just arrived and said at the same time. Roar! The leopard fierce beast's eyes seemed to reveal a mocking look. With a roar, it pounced again, completely unafraid of the three men and their weapons. This time, its speed was even faster. It was like a sharp arrow that was shot out of the sky. Bam, 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 the harpoons, shovels, and javelins in the hands of Su Ben, Su Quan, and Su Xiangfei hit the leopard fierce beast's body at the same time, but they didn't cause any damage to it. Instead, its sharp claws swept through Su Xiangfei's and Su Quan's arms, leaving a few deep wounds on them. Bam! What caught the trio off guard was that after the leopard ferocious beast tore apart Su Xiangfei and Su Quan's arms, it actually turned around in midair. Its two sharp claws fiercely slapped at Su Ben's back, causing blood to gush out from several bloody wounds. Su Ben's body was directly slapped away and heavily smashed into the ground 7 to 8 meters away. Big Brother Ben, Su Ben. Su Quan's and Su Xiangfei's countenance drastically changed. They desperately brandished the shovels and javelins in their hands, forcing the leopard fierce beast to retreat to the side, and then dashed towards Su Ben. Tan Xiu stood quietly on a tree branch more than 10 meters high, watching the fight below. His eyes flickered with a bright light. Just now, he had judged that the leopard fierce beast would indeed bring harm to the trio, but it would be very difficult for it to kill them. That was why he resisted the urge to attack. However, he could also judge that it was absolutely impossible for the trio to kill the leopard fierce beast. The leopard fierce beast's body was too tough. Even if a harpoon or a javelin were to stab its body, it was not certain that it would be able to pierce through. After pondering for a moment, he watched the leopard fierce beast pounce toward the trio again. His figure instantly flashed. Swoosh! An afterimage swooped down from the sky, and the bloodguzzler dagger shot out a red light, sweeping across the leopard fierce beast's back. Roar! Roar! The sharp pain made the leopard fierce beast go crazy. It could no longer continue to attack the trio. As it frantically turned around, its awe-inspiring eyes fell on Tan Xiu. It could feel that the human in front of it was a great threat, so it planned to get rid of this human first, and then kill the other three. In a flash, the leopard fierce beast had already pounced in front of Tan Xiu, its sharp claws grabbing toward Tan Xiu's head. Die! A cold light flashed in Tan Xiu's eyes. The bloodguzzler dagger instantly streaked across, easily cutting off the leopard fierce beast's front claws. At the same time, Tan Xiu ruthlessly kicked its abdomen. As its huge body was sent flying, Tan Xiu, like a shadow, pierced the leopard fierce beast's lower neck with the bloodguzzler dagger and tore open a long gash. Blood gushed out. The leopard fierce beast was terrified. It had never encountered such a fast human, let alone suffered such a serious injury. Almost the moment it landed, it endured the pain of losing its two front claws and fled toward the side of the mountain forest. Kill me! The bloodguzzler dagger in Tan Xiu's hand turned into a stream of light and pierced the leopard fierce beast's abdomen. The penetrating attack made the leopard fierce beast tremble and heavily fall under a big tree 7 or 8 meters away. Its abdomen was pierced and its neck was torn. Two fatal injuries made the leopard fierce beast full of despair. It struggled to get up from the ground, but the blood gushing out like a fountain made it weaker and weaker. In particular, its front 2 legs were chopped off. It struggled to get up halfway and then fell heavily again. Bam, 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 Tan Xiu sprinted to the leopard fierce beast's side and punched it like a gust of wind. Looking at the leopard fierce beast that was already dying, a smile appeared on his face. "Are you okay, big brother Ben?" Tan Xiu turned around and looked at the 3 people who had come over with a smile. Su Ben wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and shook his head with a smile. "I'm fine. I just feel a burning sensation on my back." "You're the best, Tan Xiu. The 3 of us are not this guy's match, yet you killed it in a few moves. You can also do it easily if you practice hard in the future," said Tan Xiu with a light smile. "Alright, since we've killed this guy, let's carry its corpse out. Let the villagers see it so that everyone can be completely relieved." Su Ben nodded and was about to carry the leopard fierce beast. Tan Xiu stopped him and took out the silver needles he carried with him to stop the bleeding and bandage the wounds of the 3 people. After the treatment was almost done, he said with a smile, "You may be injured, but this is a good training opportunity that can't be wasted. In order to exercise your physical strength, the 3 of you will carry the leopard's corpse. Also, this place is still far from the Su family village, but I want you to get out of the mountain within 2 hours. Can you do it?" The 3 people looked at each other in dismay with wry smiles in their eyes. 2 hours? Although they searched everywhere when they came in and their speed was very slow, it still took them 4 or 5 hours to get here. Moreover, that was in the daytime. Walking on the mountain road at night was even more difficult. Wanting to get out in 2 hours was probably impossible, right? Tan Xiu looked at the 3 people's expressions and added, "If you can't carry this leopard's corpse out of the mountain forest within 2 hours, I'll use more cruel means to train you in the future. I'll let you taste the feeling of living a life worse than death, and then enjoy the pleasure that power brings you." The feeling of living a life worse than death? Soaking in the spiritual spring was the feeling of living a life worse than death. Even if the spiritual spring could bring them great benefits, they didn't want to experience it a second time. Therefore, the 3 people looked at each other and then quickly lifted the leopard fierce beast and quickly ran out of the mountain. Chapter 618. Tan Xiu shuttled through the mountain forest as if he was walking on flat ground. He closely followed Su Ben's group of 3 who were carrying the fierce beast's corpse. After hurrying for more than an hour, they finally saw the peak of the outermost mountain. At this moment, Tan Xiu keenly saw a lot of lights shining halfway up the mountain in the distance. "Stop!" Tan Xiu sped up and blocked in front of the trio. "What's wrong?" asked Su Ben doubtfully. "The 4 of us have been in the mountain for 2 days, and my car is still parked at the foot of the mountain outside. I'm afraid the villagers have already guessed that we have entered the mountain," said Tan Xiu. "I just saw a lot of lights halfway up the opposite mountain. It should be the villagers who have entered the mountain to look for us. Remember, the cultivation technique I taught you must never be leaked out. You have extraordinary abilities, but you must never reveal it in front of ordinary people, unless it's a crisis as a last resort." "All right. Understood." The trio nodded. "This leopard fierce beast was killed by you, and it has nothing to do with me," said Tan Xiu again. "You're also injured, which means you're the ones who killed it. I don't want to be in the limelight, so you can take all the credit." "Isn't this inappropriate, Tan Xiu?" asked Su Quan hesitantly. "There's nothing inappropriate about it." Tan Xiu waved his hand. "If outsiders ask, just say so. Also, we've been here for 2 days. Just say that we've been looking for this leopard these 2 days, so we can't say anything about the stone forest and the spirit spring. Else, if ordinary people were to mistakenly enter the stone forest without my guidance, only death awaits them." "All right." At this time, the trio looked at Tan Xiu with eyes that were completely different from before. Such a great credit, yet Tan Xiu directly pushed it to them. He didn't even want to take part in it, just to keep a low profile. Such a character made the trio admire him endlessly. Even Su Xiangfei felt reverence for Tan Xiu at this time. He suddenly thought of Tan Xiu half a year ago and Tan Xiu half a year later. He felt that Tan Xiu wasn't really stupid after the car accident. He was just pretending to be crazy and wanted to keep a low profile. For so many years, he must have been waiting patiently for revenge, secretly making all the preparations. Amazing. Terrifying. While Su Xiangfei admired Tan Xiu, he also felt fear in his heart. Such a young age, such a low-key personality, such a shocking mind. He's too terrifying. Su Xiangfei's face paled slightly. He stole a glance at Tan Xiu and then immediately turned his head away, suppressing the fear that was growing in his heart. As the four of them continued their journey, it took them about 20 minutes to see the villagers, police officers, and firefighters searching for them in the forest. "They are here," a roar full of surprise instantly reverberated in the forest. In a short time, 100 or 200 people gathered around. Everyone looked at the four of them with the same expression, which was surprise and disbelief. They were pleasantly surprised that the four of them were safe and sound, while they were in disbelief that Su Ben and the others were carrying the huge leopard's corpse. "Tan Xiu, Su Ben, Su Quan, Su Xiangfei, you're really making trouble blindly." Su Xiangjin rushed to the front. Even though he had seen the several people carrying the leopard's corpse, he still angrily rebuked them. "Uncle Xiangjin, how are we making trouble blindly?" Su Quan grinned. "This leopard is too hateful. We went into the mountain to kill this leopard to ensure the safety of our villagers. Look, it's this leopard. We've already killed it." Su Xiangjin deeply looked at the leopard's corpse, but still said with dissatisfaction, "Even if you want to go into the mountain to kill this leopard, shouldn't you tell everyone in advance? Do you know that in the past 2 days, the villagers have almost turned this mountain upside down in order to look for you? If you didn't appear today, we would have directly rushed into the deeper mountains and forests. Do you know how worried everyone is about you?" Tan Xiu took a step forward and smilingly said, "It's indeed our fault, Uncle Xiangjin. We didn't expect to waste so much time. According to our previous plan, we went into the mountain to look for it and then went back if we couldn't find it. Who would have thought that we would find this leopard as soon as we came in? We chased it and fought with it at the same time. Finally, it took us 2 days to set a trap and kill it. Just look at the 3 of them. They fought hand to hand just to kill this leopard." Su Xiangjin also saw the injuries on the 3 men, as well as the bloodstains on their clothes. He hurriedly asked with concern, "How are you? Are your injuries serious?" "We're fine. Tan Xiu has already stopped the bleeding and bandaged us." Su Ben shook his head. Su Xiangjin heaved a sigh of relief inwardly and silently nodded. Zhao Donghe, surrounded by several policemen in uniform, came to the front of Tang Xiu's group of 4. He looked at the bull-sized leopard and then at the 4 of them, saying, "The 4 of you really did a good job. Though it was a bit inappropriate for you to rashly enter the mountain, you still managed to kill this animal that harmed people. I'm Zhao Donghe, the chief of the County Public Security Bureau. I sincerely thank you for eliminating the evil for the people." "You're too polite, Chief Zhao." "It's what we should do," said Tan Xiu with a smile. Zhao Donghe's eyes then fell on Tan Xiu and smilingly said, "You're Tan Xiu, right? The famous young divine doctor, Tan Xiu. You're both brave and resourceful. You're really young and promising." Tan Xiu smiled and modestly said a few words. Then, he looked at everyone and smilingly said, "I'm really sorry to have made the villagers worry about me. It's the new year, yet I still troubled you to come to the mountain to look for me. Brother Ben and the other 2 have killed the leopard, so everyone can feel at ease to celebrate the new year. After we go back, I'll go to the best restaurant in the county to order a meal. Since everyone has gathered together, let's celebrate the new year together on New Year's Eve." "Great!" Each and every one of the Su family villagers showed a bright smile and applauded. After some conversation, everyone set foot on the road back. What made Su Ben, Su Quan, and Su Xiangfei very excited was that they finally didn't have to carry the leopard's corpse on the road. Back at the Su family village, Tan Xiu drove the car and stopped at his grandmother's house with the three of them, instructing them to move the leopard's corpse down. Before the four of them entered the courtyard, Tang Yunda, Su Lingyun, Zhang Shi, Chen Huiying, Mu Qingping, and Su Jinan rushed out. Xiu, son. Su Lingyun and Chen Huiying separately rushed to Tan Xiu and Su Ben. Tan Xiu looked at his mother, who was rushing over. He smiled and supported her, saying, "I'm fine, Mom. We're all fine. We just went into the mountain to kill this man-eating leopard. You see, we're back now. Don't worry about it." With tears in her eyes, Su Lingyun patted Tan Xiu's arm and angrily said, "Who told you to show off your abilities? What if something bad happened to you? What should we do then?" Zhang Shi also followed and said, "Yeah, Xiu. This mountain is so dangerous. You've been gone for 2 days, and we've been worried sick. You can't do this kind of stupid thing again." Tan Xiu secretly forced a wry smile and said a lot of good words to barely appease everyone's mood. Originally, Tang Yunda and Su Lingyun planned to take Zhang Shi to Star City to celebrate the New Year. But due to a strange combination of factors, they returned to the Su family village, so everyone decided to stay this year. Immediately after, Tan Xiu took Su Ben and the other two to the county hospital to re-bandage their wounds. The four of them drove to the county town and booked dozens of tables and dishes in the county's largest hotel. They also paid twice the price and sent them to the Su family village. Afterward, Tan Xiu took the three of them to the hospital to resuture and rebandage their wounds. Then, in the middle of the night, they knocked on the door of a shop that sold firecrackers and fireworks and asked the shop owner to send a truck of fireworks to the Su family village. Although the Su family village was located in a remote area, the roads in the village were very spacious. Because of the villagers' help, a lot of round tables and benches were rented from the neighboring village and placed on the road in front of the village's door. Many villagers looked excited as they pulled the electric wires and light bulbs outside. If one were to overlook the Su family village, they would find that most of the village was brightly lit. Gu Yin had never encountered such a lively New Year's scene in the past years. After all, she was still a child. She ran around excitedly and even played with a group of children who were older than her or younger than her. As the dishes and wine from the county town's big hotel arrived and were placed on the tables, the villagers in the village happily drank and chatted. Even the two families who had lost their loved ones showed a trace of a smile on their faces. However, the most exciting thing for everyone was that the County Public Security Bureau Chief, Zhao Donghe, brought his entire family to gather with the Su family village. Even the table that his family made was sitting together with Tang Yunda and Su Lingyun's family. In addition, what happened in the Su family village on the night of New Year's Eve was spread to several nearby villages. Some people from several nearby villages came to join in the fun. The village chiefs and people from other villages who were related to the Su family village led to more than a dozen tables. At midnight, with the arrival of the new year, the sound of firecrackers roared and the fireworks reflected the sky red. That night, for the villagers of the Su family village, it might be unforgettable. Even the grand scene of the New Year's Eve dinner party would be held every year in the future. No one expected that this newly formed custom would become the most important custom in the Su family village in the future. The four young people, Tan Xiu, Su Ben, Su Quan, and Su Xiangfei, also became the great heroes of the Su family village and the surrounding villages. The excitement lasted until 1:00 in the morning. Early the next morning, when the sky was just brightening, Tan Xiu, Su Xiangfei, Su Jinan, and Gu Yin were pulled out of bed by Mrs. Zhang. Because the custom of setting off firecrackers and eating dumplings on the morning of the New Year's Day had long been deeply rooted in the hearts of every villager. Xiangfei, go set off the firecrackers. Tan Xiu stood by the well in the yard and washed his face with the bone-chilling cold water. Then, he called out to Su Xiangfei, who had finished washing. Chapter 6:19. Alrighty. Su Xiangfei happily rushed into the house and took a plate of firecrackers before returning to the courtyard. His behavior made Sujinin, who had just come out of the kitchen, dumbfounded with disbelief written all over her face. Although she could see that his relationship with Tan Xiu had improved from Su Xiangfei's performance yesterday, she didn't expect that he would listen to Tan Xiu to this extent. Sujinin now knew that Tan Xiu was very powerful. Not only did he set up the powerful magnificent Tang Corporation, but he was also a member of the Tang family in the imperial capital. But she also knew her brother very well. With the relationship between her family and Tan Xiu, how could her brother, Su Xiangfei, be like this? Clap, clap, clap. The sound of firecrackers sounded as Su Lingyun and Mrs. Zhang, who were busy in the kitchen, also began to cook dumplings. Taking advantage of the time when the firecrackers were finished, Sujinin came to Su Xiangfei's side and asked with a frown, "Brother, you seem to listen to Tan Xiu very much?" "He's very capable, so I naturally have to listen to him," Su Xiangfei said with a smile. "But Dad and Mom," Sujinin angrily said. Upon hearing this, Su Xiangfei suddenly remembered something. He looked at Tan Xiu, who was walking to the kitchen, and then lowered his voice and said, "Sis, it's my fault. I forgot to tell you before. Tan Xiu has contacted the people in Star City and asked them to find a way to bail out Dad and Mom." "Ah, that's right. Tang Xiu also told me when I just got up that Mom and Dad are already on the way back, and they will be back in the village in about 2 hours. "What?" Sujinin looked at Su Xiangfei with disbelief. The news was like a thunderclap that shook her heart. "Sis, I know you're still angry with Tan Xiu and think that he's the one who caused us to lose everything. But think about how we treated Tan Xiu and Aunt in the past. That's right, our family was rich at that time. My aunt had to take care of Tan Xiu, so her life was very difficult. She even often came to our family to borrow money. But we looked at them with arrogant eyes, treated them with contempt and made things difficult for them, and even almost caused Tan Xiu to go to jail. Right? Sister, look at the present. The wealth that Tan Xiu has now is more than 100 times more than what our family used to have, right? But what about him? How did he treat us? As long as we're close to him, he and Aunt won't look down on us and won't make things difficult for us. Dad committed suicide in the hospital. Why? It's not because of the family's failure, but because he regrets how he treated Tan Xiu and Aunt." As Su Xiangfei spoke up to there, he silently took out a half-pack of cigarettes from his pocket. After lighting it up, he took a few deep puffs. A bitter expression appeared on his face as he said again, "Do you know the reason why I realized that our family has been in trouble all these years?" "What reason?" Sujinin asked with a blank expression. Pointing to the courtyard door, Su Xiangfei bitterly said, "I just returned to the Su family village. The villagers still don't know that our family has been defeated, nor do they know that our parents have been imprisoned. But their eyes when they look at me are full of contempt and disgust. They even look down on me. Why? Isn't it because we've forgotten our roots all these years?" "Our roots?" Su Yening felt as if her heart had been ruthlessly struck, and a faint pain grew in her heart. That's right. Her roots were in the Su family village. Even if her family once had tens of millions of assets, so what? Could it be that they could forget their ancestors? If they forgot their ancestors, then what would become of their family? Su Xiangfei gently hugged Sujinin's shoulder and sighed, "Sis, we were wrong before, and we have to admit our mistakes. Our previous attitude towards Tan Xiu and Auntie, as well as our attitude towards the villagers in the Su family village, was wrong. As the saying goes, knowing one's mistakes is the best way to improve. Last night, I really felt the change in the villagers' attitude towards me. Even Su Quan drank a bit too much last night. He told me something. Do you know what it is?" "What is it?" Sujinin's complexion was a bit pale as she asked in a low voice. Su Xiangfei said, "The neighboring village, Little Wang Manor. You're not unfamiliar with it, right? We grew up here when we were young. Su Quan drank a lot. Then, he told me that he wanted to recognize his ancestors and cherish his family. He wanted to unite with the villagers because we all had the same surname, Su. Our ancestors were from the same family, and we were a family. You should have heard of little Wang Manor's Wang Xinka, right? Because of his good fortune, he went to the city to do a big business. His family is very rich, and every time he comes back, he always has a swaggering appearance. And the result? Just 2 years ago, Wang Xinka's father died in Little Wang Manor. On the day of the funeral, because he was so unpopular, there wasn't even a villager to help carry the coffin. What happened next? It was his uncle, the village chief, who took him to kowtow and apologized to everyone. Finally, there were villagers who were willing to help carry the coffin and send the old man to the field. Sujinin understood. A regretful expression appeared on her face, and she didn't speak for a long time. Moreover, she found that her brother had really grown up and become sensible. He was no longer the child who relied on his family's stinky money to do whatever he wanted. Brother, I know. Sujinin hugged Su Xiangfei, then let go of him and strode toward the kitchen. 2 hours later. A police car stopped at the entrance of the Su family village. As the door opened, Su Shangguan and Zhang Meiyun came out of the police car, followed by a middle-aged man in a police uniform. Thank you, Officer Hu. Thank you for personally sending us back. Su Shangguan held the middle-aged policeman's hand and spoke with a grateful expression. The middle-aged policeman said with a smile, "You're welcome. It's what I should do. Also, please give my regards to Chief Long and Chief Chen." Certainly. Even though Su Shangguan knew that it was Long Hanwen and Chen Zhizhong who got him and his wife out of the prison, but he did not have any friendship with the two of them. The main culprit should be Tang Xiu, but he still spoke to deal with it. As the police car left, Su Shangguan squatted down and opened the duffel bag on the ground. He took out 2 cartons of cigarettes from the inside, opened one, grabbed a few packs and put them in his pocket. Then, he stuffed the rest back into the duffel bag. Only then did he turn to look at Zhang Meiyun and lightly said, "Don't blame me for not reminding you. The Su family village is my home, and my mom is here. We've made too many mistakes before. I hope you can be like what you said and live a peaceful life with me." Zhang Meiyun squeezed out a smile as she nodded and said, "Shangguan, I was wrong before. I already know that I was wrong. You can rest assured that I won't put my eyes on the top of my head again." Su Shangguan nodded without a word. He then picked up the duffel bag and walked toward the village. As soon as he entered the village, he saw several villagers who got up early to visit their elders. Big brother Dazhu, Jianxi, after greeting them, Su Shangguan's face was full of smiles. He took out a cigarette from his pocket and smoked it one by one. When these people saw Su Shangguan, they were too lazy to pay attention to him. But looking at his passionate look, even though the few of them were astonished, they still nodded their heads and took the cigarettes from Su Shangguan. "It's good that you're back." Su Dazhu nodded and said. Su Shangguan said with an obsequious smile, "Big brother Dazhu, it's all my fault before. I got a bit of money and forgot my surname. You can rest assured that this little brother will definitely turn over a new leaf in the future. Su family village is my home, and everyone in the village is also my family." Su Dazhu and the others looked at each other in dismay. Then, Su Dazhu nodded with satisfaction and said with a smile on his face, "Not bad. It's really not easy for you to realize that you're wrong. Your son is also not bad. He's a real man. Come to my house when you have time. I'll ask my sister-in-law to prepare a few dishes and we'll drink a few cups." "Son." Su Shangguan stared blankly for a moment, but he still put on a smiling face and promised. Immediately after, Su Shangguan bade farewell to them and entered the village. Along the way, he met a lot of villagers. Every time, he would stop and greet everyone with a smile on his face. Then, he would open his cigarette and share it with everyone. What made him puzzled was that every villager would mention his son, Su Xiangfei, with a tone full of praise. He wanted to ask the reason, but because people kept passing by and kept greeting everyone, he couldn't ask. After half an hour, Su Shangwen and Zhang Meiyun finally arrived at the entrance of their old courtyard. Looking at the off-road vehicle that was parked outside, Su Shangwen stopped his footsteps as he looked at his wife and asked, "Have you noticed that the villagers seem to be treating us differently now that we've returned?" Zhang Meiyun also deeply felt the change in the villagers' attitude toward the couple. She nodded silently and said, "Yeah, they've become cordial. In the past, when we came back, the villagers didn't pay attention to us." Su Shangwen sighed, "That's because we looked down on them before. Our reputation in the village was very bad. Let's go. Although I don't know what changed the situation, we must cherish it. No matter how you put it, this is our home." All right. After a series of events, Zhang Meiyun's former arrogance had long disappeared. She carried her luggage and followed Su Shangwen into the courtyard. "Dad, Mom." Su Xiangfei and Su Yanning had been waiting in the courtyard for a long time. When they saw their parents appear, they jumped up from their chairs almost instantly and rushed over. "Little Fei, little Ning." Seeing her children again, Zhang Meiyun's eyes suddenly burst out with tears. She hugged the siblings and didn't want to let go. Su Shangwen only glanced at his children before his eyes fell on Tang Yunda and Tan Xiu in the courtyard. He strode forward. Su Shangwen came to the expressionless Tang Yunda and knelt down straight. "I'm sorry, brother-in-law." Tang Yunda sighed inwardly and slowly helped Su Shangwen up from the ground. He shook his head and said, "You don't need to apologize to me. You should apologize to your younger sister and nephew." Su Shangwen turned to look at Tan Xiu. Tan Xiu directly said, "You don't need to apologize. If you can change, you're still family. If you can't, then we'll walk our separate ways." Su Shangwen heavily nodded and said, "I'll change." At this moment, Zhang Shi, who heard the movement inside the house, came out accompanied by Su Lingyun and Mu Qingping. When she saw her son, Su Shangwen, she froze on the spot. A new week, asking for recommendation votes. Chapter 620. The thread in the loving mother's hand, the clothes on the wanderer's body. It was tightly sewn before leaving, for fear of returning late. The greatest love in the world was a mother's love, as heavy as a mountain. Her son had done something wrong and was now in prison. Although Zhang Shi didn't say it, she was still worried and looked forward to her son being released from prison as soon as possible and appearing in front of her. She had fantasized and prayed countless times in the past 6 months. When her dream came true, her whole body trembled with excitement and fear. She was afraid that she was dreaming and would wake up with tears streaming down her cheeks. Plop, Su Shangwen knelt on the ground and heavily kowtowed a few times. Then, he bitterly called out, "We're back, Mom." Zhang Shi finally confirmed that she wasn't dreaming because dreams weren't so real. She bit her lips and then walked step by step to the front of Su Shangwen. "Pa!" A slap was fiercely slapped on Su Shangwen's face. Feeling distressed and angry, Zhang Shi asked, "Do you know your mistake?" Su Shangwen knelt there and silently nodded. "We know our mistake, Mom." Zhang Shi slowly closed her eyes, but tears still flowed down from the corner of her eyes. When she opened her eyes again, she faintly sighed and said, "Get up. It's good to know that you still have a home here." "I'm sorry, Mom." Zhang Meiyun also hurried over and spoke with a face full of regret. Zhang Shi didn't speak and just looked at Su Lingyun. Su Lingyun quickly glanced at Tan Xiu and then pulled Su Shangwen up from the ground and said, "It's good that you're back, big brother. Xiu doesn't know how to act appropriately, so don't be angry with him." "How can I be angry with him?" Su Shangwen shook his head and bitterly said, "Speaking of which, I have to thank Tan Xiu instead. If it weren't for him, the two of us wouldn't have been able to repent." "Don't worry, Mom. We'll definitely turn over a new leaf in the future and treat our family members as our own." Mrs. Zhang wished to hear her son say these words even in her dreams. Tears gushed out of her eyes uncontrollably. She nodded repeatedly and said, "Good, good, good." It's best if you can be like this. Su Shangwen's return made the atmosphere in the Su family slightly different from before, especially Tang Yunda's attitude. He didn't show that he forgave Su Shangwen, nor did he pursue the matter. In the evening, Mu Qingping and Gu Yin were driven back to Star City by Su Quan. Tan Xiu followed Tang Yunda and Su Lingyun out of the Su family village and drove to the imperial capital. It wasn't until 2:00 in the morning that the family of three arrived at the imperial capital. However, they didn't go directly to the Tang family's ancestral residence. Instead, they went to the residence that Tang Yunda had recently purchased in the imperial capital. Rivers and Mountains Garden. It was a relatively high-class residential area within the Third Ring Road. Most importantly, it was a luxuriously decorated duplex house. Tan Xiu had been to the imperial capital several times before, but this was his first time here. Xiu, your mom and I live downstairs. Do you live upstairs or downstairs? Tang Yunda put down his luggage, lit a cigarette and asked with a smile. I'll live upstairs. Tan Xiu said with a smile. This house looks quite big. It should be 200 square meters, right? Tang Yunda said with a smile, it's 260 square meters. I originally wanted to buy a villa, but your mom said that a villa is too spacious. Besides, we don't often live in the imperial capital, so it's a waste to buy such a big house. So, we chose this place. We reserved the master bedroom upstairs for you. There's a key on the bedside table. Remember to put it away. All right. Tan Xiu casually looked at the house and then took his travel bag to the second floor. Although he had an interspatial ring, he didn't want his parents to know this secret for the time being. Therefore, he temporarily changed his clothes and put them in the travel bag prepared by his mother, Su Lingyun. The master bedroom was more than 30 square meters, luxuriously decorated and extraordinarily spacious. Tan Xiu put the travel bag on the cabinet and walked to the window. This building had more than 20 floors, and their house was on the 11th and 12th floors, which was considered as the middle floor. Therefore, he could see the commercial street outside the residential area from the window. It looks like it's going to snow again. Tan Xiu looked up at the sky and was in a good mood. For him, the definition of home was very simple. The place where his mother was home. Now that he had found his father, he was already very satisfied. The next morning, which was the second day of the new year, Tan Xiu got up early and followed his parents to the Tang family's ancestral residence. The Tang family's ancestral residence was very lively today. Almost all the core members of the family had arrived, including his aunt, Tang Min's family. They kowtowed and paid their New Year greetings. To Tan Xiu's surprise, his grandparents also gave him a big red envelope. In the backyard of the ancestral residence, Tan Xiu was pulled to a remote place by Tang Tang. She grinned and shook her mobile, saying in a low voice, "Brother, give me a red envelope." Tan Xiu touched his pocket and forced a smile, "I didn't prepare a red envelope. I'll give you the big red envelope Grandma gave me, alright? No need to trouble yourself. Just send me a red envelope via WeChat," said Tang Tang with a smile. A red envelope via WeChat? What's that? Asked Tan Xiu with a confused expression. Tang Tang's expression froze and incredulity filled her eyes as she asked, "It can't be, right? You don't know what a red envelope via WeChat is?" "I know that WeChat is a chat tool, but I don't know anything about red envelopes via WeChat." Tan Xiu shook his head. "That's right, I don't seem to have WeChat." Tang Tang looked at Tan Xiu as though she was looking at an alien monster. She said incredulously, "Heavens! You don't have WeChat, brother? This is unbelievable. Who doesn't have WeChat these days? Who doesn't know about red envelopes via WeChat?" "You." Tan Xiu could only force a wry smile inwardly. He had just returned from the immortal world half a year ago and had been busy with all kinds of things. How could he have the time to care about those things? Even when he was at school, he only knew about WeChat from Yu Kai and the others. He didn't know that WeChat could also send red envelopes. Tang Tang shook her head and gave Tan Xiao a defeated look. She stretched out her small hand and said, "Give me your mobile. I'll help you download WeChat. Then, I'll teach you how to bind your bank card. You can send red envelopes to your WeChat friends after you've bound your bank card." 10 minutes later. Tang Tang asked Tan Xiao some information while helping him download the WeChat software and bind his bank card. Afterward, she said with a smile, "Brother, you can send red envelopes now. You should give me a big one, right?" "That's right. Just transfer the red envelopes to me directly, or you'll be too stingy." Tan Xiao couldn't help laughing and said, "Say it. What's the maximum amount of WeChat transfer? Since you've taught me this skill and you're my first WeChat friend, I'll definitely give you the biggest red envelope." Tang Tang's eyes lit up. She stretched out her hand and giggled, 50,000 yuan. Tan Xiao smiled and said, "All right, then I'll send you 50,000 yuan. A moment later, Tan Xiao transferred 50,000 yuan to Tang Tang through WeChat. As Tang Tang left happily, Tan Xiao thought for a while and then sent a short message to all the people in his phone book, giving them his WeChat ID and asking them to add him as a friend. It was a new era, and he must keep up with the trend. Now that he had come back, Tan Xiao knew that he couldn't be derailed from society. Since there were so many people using WeChat, he couldn't wander around outside. Beep, 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 beep. The message prompts set by Tang Tang kept ringing one after another. Although Tan Xiao didn't have many phone numbers in his phone book, less than 100 people in total, 40 to 50 people had applied to be his friend on WeChat in just a few minutes after he sent the message. Ha ha ha, Big Bro Tang actually knows how to use WeChat. What a rare thing. Tan Xiao, I'm Long Hanwen. Divine Dr. Tang, I'm Li Longji. Boss, you actually have WeChat now. Brother Tan Xiao. After receiving everyone's application, Tan Xiao received a continuous stream of WeChat messages. Some were text messages, and some were voice messages. However, he would be exhausted if he had to reply to so many messages one by one. Therefore, he rolled his eyes and sent each of them a red packet of 200 yuan. Using WeChat is really expensive. Although Tan Xiao was a rich man now, sending so many red envelopes at once was still a bit painful for him. However, what he didn't expect was that after he sent out the red envelopes, he was directly dumbfounded by the number of red envelopes and WeChat transfer messages he received. 200 yuan. 20,000 yuan. The highest amount was 6,666 yuan, 8,888 yuan, and so on. After spending more than half an hour, Tan Xiao received all the red envelopes sent by everyone and found that he had received more than 800,000 yuan. Among them, Long Hanwen, Chen Zhizhong, Jin Xingkue, Miao Wentong, and other big bosses almost unanimously transferred the highest amount to him, 50,000 yuan. This can also make me rich? Looking at the total amount displayed in his WeChat wallet, he shook his head and was at a loss whether he had to cry or laugh. Just as he was about to close WeChat, Kang Xia called him. After chatting happily for a while, she directly pulled him into the magnificent Tang Corporation's executive group. God! Whose name did I just see? Bo. Boss? Did our big boss join the group? Big boss is here. Is he going to give us another round of New Year's benefits? Long live boss. Happy New Year, boss. Tan Xiao immediately understood Kang Xia's intention. She pulled him into the company's executive group to distribute red envelopes. After thinking about it, Tan Xiao saw that there were more than 40 people in the group, so he immediately sent more than 4,200 yuan red envelopes for everyone to grab. As a result, amidst the red envelopes and cheers in the WeChat group, Tan Xiao greeted everyone amidst countless praises and flattery, and then left the group. Son, what are you giggling about? Su Lingyun came out of the house and looked up at the fluttering snow in the sky. Her eyes finally fell on Tan Xiao and asked with a smile. I'm receiving red envelopes, Mom. Tan Xiao said with a smile. I just made a small fortune. Su Lingyun couldn't help laughing and said, "Have you seen the red envelopes Mom sent you? It's 50,000 won, someone taught me how to use WeChat. We used to be poor, and Mom didn't know how to use those high-end WeChat apps, so I gave you very little New Year's pocket money every year. But now that our family is rich, Mom will make it up to you all at once. My good gay friend Broken Bridge Crippled Snow has released a new book, Urban Super Medical Sage. Friends who like urban immortal cultivation are in for a treat. _. Also, there's still the third chapter today. I'm looking for recommendation votes and monthly votes. Chapter 621. The improvement of their family conditions made Su Lingyun wish that she could give everything to her son. Even if others were not clear about it, she was as clear as a mirror in her heart. Her son had been with her all these years, and it was a bitter and bitter life. Tan Xiu hugged Su Lingyun's shoulder and said with a smile, "Thank you, Mom. In fact, even if you don't give me any pocket money, I'll be satisfied as long as I can celebrate the new year with you every year." Silly boy. Su Lingyun rubbed Tan Xiu's head and said with a smile, "Let's go. It's snowing outside, let's go inside." The present Tang family's overall mental outlook was completely different from the past. In the past, the Tang family's hearts were always tense, and they always had to be on guard against the threat brought by the Yao family. They were afraid that they would be caught by the Yao family due to their negligence and suffer heavy losses. But now, the Yao family had become a thing of the past. The once colossus had collapsed, which made all the Tang family members feel relieved. However, the threat brought by the Yao family in recent years had also made the Tang family deeply realize one thing. If they wanted the Tang family to be more and more powerful in the future, they must unite. If one withered, they would wither, and if one thrived, they would prosper together. Although the Tang family had destroyed the Yao family, it did not mean that they could sit back and relax. There were many powerful families in the imperial capital, and their forces were complex. There were at least a few families that could threaten the Tang family. Moreover, there were countless low-profile forces that were hiding in the dark. Therefore, even if the Tang family members were relieved, they did not give up their vigilance. Tan Xiu was very satisfied with the current state of the Tang family. He stayed in the imperial capital with his parents for only 3 days and then directly returned to Star City. Although the family of 3 did not celebrate the New Year in Star City, there were still a lot of New Year's goods prepared before the New Year. Mu Qingping also came back early, so the 3 of them returned to South Gate Town with a warm feeling. In the evening, just as the family was about to have dinner, Tan Xiu received a call from Kang Xia. After hanging up the phone, the smile on his face disappeared and was replaced by a dense killing intent. "Mom, Dad, I need to go out to do something." Tan Xiu stood up and grabbed his coat from the side. "Is it something very important?" Tang Yundo was surprised. He didn't even have time to eat. Tan Xiu said, "It's a bit troublesome. One of the company's top executives had a car accident. I have to rush over to see the situation." Tang Yunda nodded and said, "Pay attention to your safety on the road. Call me if anything happens." Tan Xiu complied and quickly left the house. He then drove to Star City Chinese Medical Hospital at lightning speed. As he arrived at the entrance of the hospital's operating room, Tan Xiu found that there were many security guards of the magnificent Tang Corp in the corridor. Among them were Kang Xia's personal bodyguards, who stood at the operating room's entrance with a solemn expression and vigilantly glanced around. "Kang Xia, how is he?" Tan Xiu strode over and asked. Upon seeing Tan Xiu, Kang Xia immediately said with a bitter expression, "His injury is very serious. I was the one who signed the notice of critical illness. The doctor has already told me to be mentally prepared and said that the possibility of saving him is very small." "Have you found the 2 bodyguards responsible for protecting Dai Chang?" asked Tan Xiu in a deep voice. "No." Kang Xia shook her head and said, "I brought my men here immediately after I got the news. The people I sent to investigate them haven't come back yet. However, I can't get through to their phones. I've contacted their families, and I don't know where they have gone. A cold glint flashed in Tan Xiu's eyes. He could easily tell that Dai Chang's car accident was definitely not an accident, but a long-planned assassination. As far as he knew, Dai Chang had a total of 4 bodyguards around him, with 2 in a group. The 4 of them had been trained by the experts of the Everlasting Feast Hall, and 3 to 5 ordinary people were simply not their opponents. Most importantly, as bodyguards, they naturally had absolute integrity, and their mobile phones were always switched on 24 hours a day. But now, the 2 bodyguards responsible for protecting Dai Chang were missing, and they couldn't be contacted by phone. It could only mean that they had met with an accident. Is there any special situation in the company recently? Or did Dai Chang encounter any problems before? Asked Tan Xiu. Dai Chang told me before the new year that someone privately contacted him, hoping to buy a lot of God's nectar from him, said Kang Xia. You also know that Dai Chang is the director of our magnificent Tang Corporation's winery, and there are many people who want to buy God's nectar from him through the back door. That's why I didn't take it seriously at that time. I just thought that the other party's demand was a bit big. Dai Chang refused the other party and was threatened by him. Who's the other party? Asked Tan Xiu. He's an electronics factory owner in Guangyang province in the south, surnamed Xian. I sent someone to investigate him half an hour ago, but there's no result yet, said Kang Xia. Then let's wait for the news first. I'll go inside and see the situation. Tan Xiu nodded. Having said that, he strode to the operating room. After entering, he saw 7 or 8 doctors in surgical gowns operating on Dai Chang, and the surgeon's hands were stained with blood. Who allowed you to come in? Get out quickly. A female doctor who had just been transferred to Star City Chinese Medical Hospital frowned and scolded. Immediately, the other doctors in the operating room turned their heads and their eyes fell on Tan Xiu's face. Tan Xiu ignored her and looked at the surgeon instead, asking, "How's the situation?" Upon seeing Tan Xiu, the surgeon's eyes suddenly lit up and he hurriedly said, "The patient's condition is very bad. Although the internal bleeding has been stopped, 4 of his ribs are broken, and one of them has pierced the lobe of his lung. Additionally, his head has suffered severe damage and his cranial bones are fractured. We'll need the help of a brain specialist later. Deal with the injuries that need to be dealt with as fast as possible," said Tan Xiu. "Then let me take over." "Understood," the surgeon respectfully replied. At this moment, the female doctor who had recently been transferred to Star City Chinese Medical Hospital was dumbfounded. She didn't know Tan Xiu, nor had she seen Tan Xiu in the hospital. She really couldn't understand why the surgeon would listen to Tan Xiu's words. Even the expressions of the others were filled with worship and respect. 10 minutes later, Tan Xiu took over the treatment. As the wounds had been stitched up, Tan Xiu had an easier time to deal with them. After his extremely careful treatment, it took him 3 hours to pull Dai Chang, who was riddled with scars all over his body, back from the edge of death. The medical skills he displayed were unimaginable and unimaginable, so much so that the doctors in the operating room couldn't understand it. However, when he said that he had saved his life, but the follow-up care must be in place, all the doctors in the operating room had a deep look of worship on their faces. "Divine Dr. Tang, it's fortunate that you came in time. To tell you the truth, if I were to finish the operation on the patient, my chances of saving him would only be 20%, said the surgeon with admiration. Tan Xiu nodded without a word. The 3-hour treatment had consumed a lot of his spiritual force. Therefore, he gave a few instructions and then left the operating room. He's Divine Dr. Tang. The female doctor who previously berated Tan Xiu murmured in disbelief. The surgeon glanced at her and smilingly said, "He's naturally Divine Dr. Tang, the one who can cure many difficult and complicated diseases." The female doctor's lips squirmed a few times and said with a worried expression, "Then, the chief surgeon smiled and said, "Don't worry. Divine Dr. Tang is broad-minded and won't stoop to your level. Besides, you didn't do anything wrong. After all, someone trespassed the operating room and you don't know Divine Dr. Tang, so you should stop him. Alright, don't think too much about it. Divine Dr. Tang just said that the follow-up care of the patient must be done well. When Tan Xiao came out of the operating room, he saw Kang Xia waiting outside the door. Since there was something on his mind, Tan Xiao directly asked, "How's the investigation going?" "We found the bodies of the 2 bodyguards in a river on the outskirts of the city," said Kang Xia. "They were killed by a heavy blow and should have been hit with a blunt object. I got the news from the police, so I've sent some people to deal with it. Also, we haven't found the boss surnamed Xian. I've asked the Everlasting Feast Hall's people to investigate in Guanyang province, but the news I got is that he's gone missing." Tang Xiu picked up his mobile and made several calls in a row. He needed to find the boss surnamed Xian. It would be best if he didn't do it, but if he did, Tan Xiu would make him pay a painful price. Tan Xiu liked Dai Chang very much. This bald man was also the one who brought Dai Chang to Star City and made him work for him. Now that such a big thing happened to him, he must give him an explanation. "Boss, I suspect," said Kang Xia hesitantly. "What do you suspect?" asked Tan Xiu with a slightly moved expression. "If the boss surnamed Xian really sent someone to do it, I suspect this matter is not that simple," said Kang Xia. Tan Xiu squinted his eyes and said, "You mean that the other party wanted to buy wine from Dai Chang at first because he was drunk and had other intentions? He also wants the God's Nectar formula." "That's right." Kang Xia nodded. "Just wait for the news," said Tan Xiu. "As long as I find that Qian guy, I can pry open his mouth and make him spit out the truth. Evacuate all the company's security guards from the hospital and take your bodyguards with you. Secretly send some experts from the magnificent Tang Corporation here. I've saved Dai Chang's life, but I can't let him get hurt again." "All right." Kang Xia nodded without a word. As Kang Xia left with her bodyguards and the magnificent Tang Corporation security guards, Tan Xiu personally sent Dai Chang to the ICU. He didn't hurry to leave and stayed outside the door, waiting for the news. Late at night, Tan Xiu received a call from Tang Min, who told him that she had found the place where the boss surnamed Xian was. Blue City. After hanging up the phone, Tan Xiu thought for a moment and then called Xiaomingzhen. After learning that he was still in Blue City, he immediately asked him to help arrest the boss surnamed Xian. "Brother Xiao, I'll send you his information. Please." You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.